Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural and silly to the serious, and there's nothing more serious than today's topic, tiddies, okay? We're going to be talking about tiddies and ass and TNA in general when it comes to gaming, media, streaming, all sorts of things. Recently, with the release of Stellar Blade onto PC, within 72 hours of its release, it had countless mods made. Raunchy is the word used to describe them, and probably the best word used on this stream. And people beforehand, when Stellar Blade was quote-unquote censored, and they covered up some of her cleavage and things like that, the main game character, people had a fit. They threw a fit. They refunded their purchases. They threatened to cancel. All these things. So the question for tonight is simple. Are gooners ruining gaming? Or are they saving it? Are the big old titties saving gaming culture? Or are they ruining it? We're going to talk about it. We got some great guests. We got one more coming, maybe two more. We'll see if they show up. I'm going to pass the ball first to Mr. Soy Pill himself. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Tell people who you are, what you do, and what are your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I just posted one for members and patrons only. So all my members in my audience better not go watch that because this is more important because we got to talk about gooners, guys. Look, I'm not here to shame hot women. I'm not here to shame jerking off. I personally love jerking off to hot women. It's fun. That's fine. My problem is with gooners. Their stupid fucking over-sexualization that ruins artistic integrity in video games. When games put half-naked booby ladies in places where they don't belong, clearly to appeal to a horny male audience, it's embarrassing and crosses into pornographic territory. Some examples: Stellar Blade, like Wick already mentioned, Quiet from Metal Gear Solid, Sarah Kerrigan from StarCraft. These are all examples of very obviously over-sexualized, completely out-of-place things that have to be post hoc rationalized as, she has to be naked because she breathes through her skin. It's so stupid. Sex is a natural part of human life, and I don't think we need sterile, unsexy, frumpy characters. Baldur's Gate 3 is a great game that sacrifices no artistic integrity when placing in nudity, hot people, or sex scenes. But the best armor isn't a floss string bikini that gives you plus 8,000 defense. Everything fits in the world. So gooners, much like the worst of the woke, sacrifice story, character, and suspension of disbelief for their agenda. It sucks, and I'm tired of it. Go watch porn and stay out of my video games, you little fucking freaks.
Okay, well, we're starting. Speaking of little fucking freaks, Jack, welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Man, we haven't seen each other in weeks.
True.
And you come out... right, well,
True.
I like how I've been trying to flip my camera so that my logo is correct, but you flipped your stream, so it's actually all right. It's very strange. Look, I don't know what Soy Pill's problem is, other than the fact that he's obviously on too much soy. He is right. Sex is a completely natural part of human life, and to the point where the bravest men and women in the world, the Celts, fought butt naked, covered in paint, and screaming like wild things. Some of the most incredible female characters to have ever come out of media in the last 20th century. I can name two off the top of my head that fight near naked. Red Sonja and Ripley from Alien. And there is nothing wrong with having a little bit of eye candy whilst you are watching them kick ass. Now, I do agree that there are certain portions of the internet that get a little bit too into the modding scene. I'm looking at you, Nexus, and the other place where you should never go, Simba. And I agree that, yes, people do get their horn on for video game characters. However, sex, sexuality, and the use of sex and sexuality can be used to achieve different ends. And Stellar Blade has obviously used it to achieve an aesthetic, which, to be honest, is quite incredible. The music is great. The models are great. The sexiness is top tier. I am waiting to play it because my to play list is as long as my arm, and I've got books I need to read first. But I think it's incredible that we've sort of we're back in 2014, and I'm getting deja vu.
Okay. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Welcome back to the show, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, as we go. Next up, last but not least, for now at least, until our other guests arrive, my favorite, Icebeans. Go ahead.
Long time no see, Wick. All right, my position is a fairly simple one. I am a free market and free titty. I support that. I don't think that my positions of wanting good games with good stories and good mechanics means that I have to tell gooners not to goon. If they would like to goon, that is totally up to them. Video game developers are totally free to cater to gooners if they like, and I will simply, if you are somebody who doesn't like the goon content, you can simply put your money where your mouth is and support those video game devs that don't participate in that. I prefer to leave it up to, I prefer to give developers the freedom to do as they wish and burn spectacularly or become spectacularly successful. I'm totally fine with either way. I do not see the need to put a cap on video game devs or modders. Barring some, I'll make some concessions for some legal things, obviously, but for the most part, I am free the nip in this case.
Free the nip. Okay, well, Soy Pill, what do you have to say to that? Are you anti-freedom, Soy Pill? Why are you against this?
Yeah, no, okay. So the idea, first of all, I don't think we should legislate against gooner mentality, obviously, but the idea that this free market is somehow a good argument against it has always pissed me off, because if you look at the most popular movies or any sort of like media, you can appeal to the lowest common denominator and make absolute fucking dog shit. You can look at all the Marvel slop that has been churned out in the past 5 years. You can look at like all the gambling that just takes advantage of people's addictive personalities and say, well, hey, it's the free market, and yeah, people are more drawn to this makes more money, and it's true, it does make more money, but that doesn't mean it's good. And what my problem is not the idea that someone can be horny in a video game. That's why I brought up Baldur's Gate 3. It's one of the horniest games I've ever played. There are people constantly trying to fuck you, even when you don't try to fuck them. It is very much like a sex positive nudity game. And you can, the opening screen lets you like choose genitalia, how big and small you want the dicks to be, whether or not you want them to be circumcised. You can do all the booby customization, all that, although I don't think there's a booby slider, unfortunately. But what really sucks is when they use these gooner mentalities to sacrifice what would otherwise be a good story. So if you want to talk to me about, hey, we shouldn't desexualize games, or hey, we should let people pick what they want, of course. But however, I think that we should be advocating for better media. Just because it's allowed, just because it's the free market, doesn't mean it's good, right? Quiet is a dog shit character. I'm sorry. There's no reason for someone to be dressed like that in the game. The only reason is because it's hot, and it doesn't make any sense in universe. She's gonna get fucking fried by the sun out in Metal Gear Solid. So it pisses me off when you sacrifice good story so that you can get horny and jerk off. That's my problem. If you want to contend with that, cool. But if you want to say we should be allowed to have gooners in the games, yeah, sure. I just think they suck.
Well, here's the thing: is that I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think the bigger question is that, because here's the other thing. And this I guess does speak to the question, because I can agree with you on in the sense that I would prefer to have games that have a balanced sense of like, putting sexuality where it's needed, where as opposed to just kind of slapping it on there to appeal to a certain demographic or whatever else. Like, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I haven't played Baldur's Gate myself, but like have heard and watched quite a bit of it, so I do understand and take your points. But my preference is to just, instead of focusing on telling the gooners to stop, I'm more interested in supporting, supporting the games that do have the good content, so to speak.
Right.
You mentioned, for example, you mentioned the woke stuff in in shows or whatever, and you can talk about DEI and stuff. I like it when it's done well and it doesn't clash with certain other things in the story whatsoever. I have no problem with diversity, for example, but it has to be done well, right? And so, of course, if you have you have the general environment being more conducive to race swapping and all those kinds of things, but I like to see it as the things that rise to the top are those movies, are those shows that do it well and incorporate it without it being too ham-fisted. And I just think the same is true of like the gooner content. I guess what do you have to say
just
to
because maybe you don't know my politics. So when I said woke, that wasn't a criticism of the concept
fine.
woke in the same way the right-wing people do it. It's when
Sure.
you notice bad media and call it woke when these people do it, because it's not because it's woke. It's not because there's a brown character. It's not because they put a girl in it. It's because it has bad writing, and the writing has been supplanted by also someone's woke agenda. So I'm fine with woke games. I'm fine with diversity, like you said. Baldur's Gate 3 is another example of, hey, this game's really woke. It's got gay people in it. It's got all sorts of, you can have a man voice and a female genitalia. It's like whatever. But the problem is that, you notice woke stuff when it's bad writing, and then they just blame it on woke. In the same way, I'm not going to blame gooners for making the game bad, but there is some degree of what's up, Wick?
Why not? Let's look at Stellar Blade as an example, and this is to your point too, Icebeans, right? You said you want to give developers the most latitude that they possibly can have. Stellar Blade's a perfect example of this. The gooners, because the developers wanted to censor it a little bit, right? They're like, this is a little too much, right? And they
the publisher wanted to censor it, which I think is the when we're talking about this controversy, and I followed it a little bit. It's not really my kind of thing. I'm more interested in the principles behind the entirety of the conversation. The publisher was the one that tried to impose censorship upon the artistic expression of the developer. Now, you might not like the artistic expression being as sexy as it is. That's entirely personal preference. The issue that people like Grums and Asmongold and that sort of streamer crowd had was that it was the developer attempting to censor a final product when the demand for the product was for the original uncensored offering. And so the controversy was that. It wasn't that the developers wanted to make her less hot, because good God, look at the amount of time they spent scalping her ass. It is because the publisher said, this is going to offend certain people, maybe people with too much soy in their diet. And there you are.
I'm not offended by how sexy they are. I think it's embarrassing, frankly, because when I play a game like Stellar Blade, first of all, incredibly, incredibly derivative of something like Nier Automata. The gameplay itself is very repetitive and not, in my opinion, not very good, although it's not my type of game, so I can't comment that well on it. But the problem is when you have a cast of characters that all are these like hyper pornified, samey looking people, because it doesn't really matter that it makes sense in the game. It just matters that every character has to be hot. Every character always has to be appealing to male sexuality. I'm not offended by it. It just kind of sucks. It's worse because you could have a vast variety of characters. Sorry?
We're not allowed to appeal to male sexuality?
I didn't say you're not allowed to. I just think it's lazy and not as good as when you have a variety of characters.
You framed it as a criticism.
This is a criticism, but when you're saying you're not allowed to, that's very different. I'm not prescribing that we can't do this.
You said
I'm saying this sucks.
It appeals to male sexuality as if that was an issue. But if there is something...
It's appealing to male sexuality in a way that sacrifices the integrity of the realism of the world and the suspension of disbelief.
Well,
for example,
let me take that point.
The outfits that they wear in Stellar Blade are ridiculous.
Of the world? I'm not a fan of this particular argument, but I'm going to make it because I find it ironic that I would. You're saying Quiet is a terrible character because it breaks your suspension of disbelief because she's in the midday sun and she's next to naked. If I'm not mistaken, don't they set a giant flying whale on fire in the first few minutes of that game? Is that the same game? Is that the same universe?
Yeah. But
so
the idea that
you've not actually played it.
I haven't played that part of it. I've only played through the middle when you're going
That's
to
the beginning part of it.
I didn't play it.
You're escaping from the hospital. I've not played it. I've just watched someone else play it.
I play on other people's PlayStations, unfortunately.
My point is that there is... Well, if you've not played it...
Wait, neither of you have played the game. Let's be clear. Neither of you have played the game.
No, I've never played the game.
It's not my example. It's his example. What I'm saying is...
I just want to set the stage here is that you're both talking about something neither of you have played.
No, this is the example.
I have played it. I haven't played all the way through.
Yeah, and I have watched it. I have watched a Let's Play of it because I was working. But the idea that you can take the giant flaming whale on the nose but can't take a sexy lady showing a bit of skin, I
So,
think
so
might
this
be a
is
little.
a little bit of a misrepresentation too, and maybe you don't know this, but it's not just oh she's sexy. It's one
She
that
breathes through her skin.
she's literally naked, and they have to write a reason for her to be naked back
Yeah.
into the game. But it's two. It's when you're in the helicopter. She's like showing her ass into your face like
Yeah.
a cat trying to get fucked. Like it's very embarrassingly like trying to appeal to this like like oh look how hot I am, and like the idea that she's literally this like perfect encapsulation of male sexual desire. She's, perfectly sculpted. She doesn't talk. She's super servile to you. And it's like, this is fucking weird. It's dumb. And it's like,
That is
yeah, no,
normal
don't get me
human
wrong. There's some,
sexuality.
I understand that, but when when you're in the game, and I'm like, this is the same problem that people have with wokeness. It's not necessarily the wokeness; it's that the game is making you think about something completely irrelevant to the story and the world that you're in, because you're like, this is so fucking dumb. So if like I'm playing a fantasy game, and it has some sort of like, I don't know, non-binary character or some non-binary race, like maybe there's automatons, or maybe there's some Star Trek, group of aliens that are agendered.
Like
That's
the
usually
Asari from Mass Effect.
yeah, like the Asari in Mass Effect, which, to be fair, are just all hot women. But that is still an asexual thing, right? So that's fine, and that doesn't take you out of the game. But then when they say, "Whoa, excuse me, Commander Shepard, you just misgendered me," suddenly you're like, "Wait a minute, why am I hearing 2025 language in my game that's set like in the year 4000 or wherever the fuck Mass Effect takes place, or 2200 or whatever?" And it's like, this is what I mean when it's like, okay, there's nothing that's going to take me out of, even like a goofy flaming whale might like fit in the universe of Goofy Metal Gear Solid, where I'm hiding in a box and have a flaming fist that goes around and remote controls. But the problem is that like this very obviously pornographic, like, hey, look how hot I am, and not like a flirty person that you can romance, and that it's like they don't even need to have a character. Maybe they're just hot and they're trying to fuck you. Maybe they're literally a prostitute in game. But when the character's entire like existence is meant to goon to, that's when it's like, okay, why does it look like this? And you can tell that it's, well, I wanted to put a really fucking hot character in, and then I had to pretend like there was a good reason to do it. And that's when it's really
But then-
clearly
but then it
sacrificing
seems
the
like
writing.
you're- it seems
Japanese
like-
writing.
Yeah,
hold on, would
Japanese
you have-
writing
would you
is,
have let
is
a-
usually bad, and I hate anime.
Okay,
just to
let's
be
give it to
Would-
Icebeans
would-
for a minute. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, would you have a problem? Would you have less of a problem with it if they didn't try to provide the bullshit explanation for the fan service content?
That's just like the insulting cherry on top, where you pretend like there's a good reason to do it. And like I would
Sure.
at least admire their honesty if they're like, I like hot women so much that I'm willing to sacrifice the integrity of my game, and how like, everything makes sense. I'm just going to say there's a naked woman always at all times in the corner of my screen, picture in pictured, so that I can always goon to it. It would be like, yeah, this is still stupid. However, at least you're being honest that you're just a horny motherfucker. I think the line is crossed when it's like, this might as well be porn. Why don't you just go watch porn? Why are you putting it in this video game?
Because he
I mean,
wanted to, and he's an artist.
I'm
think-
aware that's his intention.
I think okay to put the question of Stellar Blade to the side for a second, because I like for me Stellar Blade isn't necessarily. I mean, I do realize that there's some issues between like the publisher and the devs. That kind of makes sense to me, right? But the modding question is not so much that people made mods isn't so strange to me. People have been making mods since games have kind of existed that can accept a mod, and lewd or nude ones at that. So, the gooning, depending on what your definition of gooning is, it could go back as far as like some pretty old fucking games. But as far as like the actual goon content in a game, I still don't see how, like if you simply don't like that content, and you think that it could be done better, I guess, is that the only thing that's turning you off from playing this game? Like, is that the only reason why you would otherwise happily play this game, except it's the big titty or big ass women?
This doesn't even stop me from playing the game. My idea is to shame this kind of content out of games, not legislate it, obviously, but just to say like, this is embarrassing. Like, this shouldn't be in games, and it's frankly just stupid. And like an example I might bring up is I forgot which God of War this is, but there's a God of War game where like one of the rewards for beating a boss is like you go and you do like a sex mini game with like Aphrodite. And it was very much in the era where this was much more prevalent of, hey, like, this has absolutely nothing to do with the gameplay. You're literally just mashing buttons. But here's this naked woman moaning every time you press X. This is just to
Sure.
appeal
Yes.
to like the
I
male
can
like
actually
fan.
speak to this because God of
Yeah.
War. I remember we had Jaffe on,
We did have him on. Yes, I remember.
the developer of God of War.
Yes.
And he was an interesting fellow. We didn't get on. But I'm going to defend him here because you're saying, oh, there's no reason for Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, love, and sex, to have a sexy mini game.
Well, hold on. Don't misrepresent me. I didn't say you can't shoehorn it in by saying, well, she's the goddess of sex. I'm saying the fact that it's in there is not because it's like, I really respect Greek mythology as the developer of this game, where this random character I created go through and kill every fucking god. It's more about the fact that it's like, why is this in here? Oh, because wouldn't it be hot if we had a naked person to appeal to our male teenage audience? And that's why they put it in. And I just think it's kind of lame.
Can I make a positive case for the inclusion of sex and sexuality in products like this, just to sort of reframe a little bit before we continue?
Sure, but just to be clear, again, I'm not anti-sex in games.
It sounds like it.
My opening example was Baldur's Gate 3, which was one of the sexiest, funniest games of recent.
The Baldur's Gate 3 we can touch on because I have made more than a few people upset by my quite scathing critiques of that game.
Okay.
I find that a couple of the sex scenes in that are terribly done. But that's me, because I have sat there and I've made the same argument you're making, but in regards to Baldur's Gate 3, where I played through, I got to camp, and all of a sudden they wanted to have an orgy. And I was sat there going, I just want to slay a dragon. However, I am also of a Dragon Age Origins background, back in the day, where Leliana is the first and foremost waifu of my life. Sorry, my wife that is in the other room. But the idea that... So sex can be done well, and you can build up to it and tell a fantastic story.
What's the best sex in a video game you've ever had?
I don't think I'm allowed to say it on stream.
Oh. Can you mention the name of the game?
Skyrim.
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 I don't think you can have sex in vanilla
modded Skyrim. I'm sorry, modded Skyrim?
Yeah, well, you can do modded Skyrim. That makes it incredibly more interesting. But no, when you go to sleep with your spouse, you wake up with something, another buff. So I'm just going to say that to get out of this question and carry on with my main point. My main point is
okay, all right.
humans have expressed sex and sexuality in a myriad of ways for a myriad of reasons since our beginning. You've got the Venus statuettes all the way back in Çatalhöyük in Turkey, and that's some of the most early archaeological evidence we have of like religious activity surrounding fertility goddesses. You've got statuettes outside throughout the subcontinent of India of some incredibly voluptuous ladies, which could actually pass for modern day anime characters in their proportions. You've got some very interesting writing coming out of the Greeks and Roman worlds as to what they got up to. You've got vases with some very flagrant paintings on there. So when we look at the way that humans use and express sexuality throughout our art expressions, there's a myriad of forms. And we also used it to set off grander stories. Now, I've hosted quite a few topics on the idea of eroticism in genre fantasy. You might be able to tell from my livery here that I am a fantasy kind of guy. That is what I do. In fact, Wick was going to be on this show, but he cancelled on me, the bastard. Where I hosted a topic.
I did not cancel. You had to reschedule the show for a time.
I fucked up the time zones, all right?
No.
No. I hosted a big show on the use of erotica within fantasy storytelling to get across different points. I brought up Red Sonja earlier on. She is very much a victim of SA, I'm told I have to use in this crowd. And through that experience, a goddess gives her the power.
You can just say it. We don't have.
Okay, well, it's a bit more than that. This is Conan's universe. But she was given the ability by a goddess to become this amazing swordswoman, and no man could lay with her lest he beat her in fair combat. And she goes around in next to nothing, kicking ass. Belit, Queen of the Black Coast, is very similar. She's a queen that uses her beauty and her sexuality to rule over a lot of very rowdy sailors. But they're also still women. They keep these parts sort of private for their main love interest, so to speak, which is Conan. and you get a lot of this artwork coming out of these really beautiful women who are fierce and strong and powerful hanging off his arm, because it presents to the reader a sort of pairing that is the apex, and this is a Greek idea, the apex of what a human pairing should look like. And then you also have other examples where you've got the Drizzt Catti story, which goes on for about 20 books before they sleep together. So, there is plenty of sexuality being put forward in all sorts of media, and you're not going to shame people out of it because they've been doing it since time immemorial.
Yeah, so my idea of
just
shaming...
Before you respond, I got a couple super chats, and people pay me money to say words, so I'm going to have to do that, and then I'll pass it right back to you. $2 from Zephyr Ash to say, better tatas make better stories, and that's a fact. Thank you for the $2. Zetsway for $10 says, Quiet's outfit is 100% for girls to cosplay. Kojima said this specifically, but her breathing through her skin is cool. She's a sniper who doesn't have to hold her breath to steady her aim. Thank you for the $10. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to give it back to you to respond.
So, again, I think you're misconstruing a couple of my arguments here, because there are some of these things that I absolutely agree with, like the history of sex and all that. Like these are all things that I think are like, yeah, of course. This is not necessarily bad to have sex as part of a story, or sex to like further a character. However, when Googling the Red Sonja character, and I can't get her up here on screen, maybe I can screenshot at a certain point, but she is wearing like a chainmail bikini and is always showing her midriff.
Bikini lady.
And frankly, that doesn't make any sense in the universe of a melee combat, fantasy setting. It's an embarrassing reason to put someone
She
in.
is quite literally blessed by a goddess.
Yeah, so you can make your bullshit fantasy reason to post hoc rationalize why they are naked, but they're naked because it's hot. That's to be clear.
Yeah.
They have to make up a reason afterwards in universe.
She's hot and kick ass, and I'm sorry that threatens you.
I'm not threatened at all. I could probably kick this woman's ass, to be clear, because I'm a man. But let me be clear.
That's not happening, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure in universe
Head
I would
on
be the
spike
that would
very
have his head
quickly.
cut off. No. But the point is that
I'm pretty sure Conan will be quite upset if you tried it.
That's true. Yeah, he would kill me. No. The point here is not that people can't be hot, right? You look at Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to keep coming back to this. There's lots of hot characters. I think pretty much every main character
By
in
the
the
way, have you
party
seen the modding scene for Baldur's Gate 3? Pretty much all
I've
the
seen
characters
the
get
Withers,
given
big
skimpy armor.
hodonkalolonkalers like mod
people are going
too,
to keep
right?
doing this, man. You're not going to shame
Right,
them
you
out.
can make them even more overtly sexualized. But the point is, every single one of those characters is conventionally attractive and can get naked, and you can fuck every single one of them. The reason it's different is because all of that stuff makes sense in a universe, right? None of those people wear chainmail bikinis that suddenly make them the most powerful, greatest, like fighter ever. However, if you get naked, technically, I think you are a little more agile, which would make sense. It's stupid. You shouldn't do it. You have no protection. But this character that you've just pointed out, Red Sonja, is like embarrassingly so clearly drawn to be pornographic, and then rationalized afterwards. Okay, well, how can I make this less, like just I'm doing this to make her naked?
Just
that's fine that you enjoy it. I just think it's bad writing and it's embarrassing.
A little bit of housekeeping here. We do have one more guest who's made it and joined it. Tuna Chip is coming in to fight the Gooners. Okay. And he's gonna jump in and
no way.
He is. He's
beating
here.
him off just fine.
Okay, I know you're beating off all the Gooners just fine by yourself, but Tuna Chip really wanted to say hi and stop
Was that a
in.
Spinder icon? Man, I'm he had a Spinder as his icon. I'm 12. I've been transported back.
Yeah, it's a little bit past my familiarity. That's one or two generations past mine, but regardless, I just want to interject because I feel like this is an ageless conversation that can really go down one direction. But two primary points, two things with this like recent era of gooning and recent like the way that sex is in modern media is not how it was before. The sex culture we have now is not as it was before. So this idea that sex has eternally been in media, not the sex that we have now, and not the representations of sex that we have now. The fidelity, the access, the cultural container that media is inside of right now is way, way, way different. You couldn't, the thing about, say, a written or orally transmitted sexual document back in the past was, it was limited by space and time, and it was an expression of just like, yeah, people are horny, people want to have sex, but there was an intimacy with the people that were making it. There was an intimacy with the people that were reading it. and the context in which they were having it. What we have now is, ironically, the desexualization of sexual media, where it's no longer sex, it is pure pornography. It is separated from the act of sex. Do you understand what I mean by this?
We're not talking about porn, though, are we?
We are talking about porn, because
we're talking about erotica.
Sexual propaganda. Sexual propaganda. It's
That's
like
not pornography.
it's like you are looking at it, and the point of it is to cause the stimulation, versus before, erotica is very much so meant to entice a person to go out and do sex. We don't have that same climate. You're not playing God of War, seeing tits on it and thinking, you know what, I'm gonna go pursue sexual intimacy in my real life. The act of watching it and playing it isn't actually promoting sexual intimacy. You pursue sexual intimacy in spite, not due to. I really doubt that you were playing a gooner game and then said to yourself, you know what I really need to do? Put down the controller and find a wife. No one said that in their entire life.
Hold on. What?
Okay.
Wait, are you
Icebeans
implying that that
first.
was the case before? I'm sorry, Tuda, are you implying that that was the case before, that eroticism in games before would
No.
lead you to go find a lady and give it
Not
to
in
her
games.
with all of your
Not
might?
in games. Not in games. I'm not talking about like, oh, the decline of sex in games. I'm saying that when people make arguments where it's like, oh, look at the Romans, look at the Greeks, look at early media. Sex has always been in media. Sex used to be a bigger part of our lives, and media used to be more connected to actual physical space and other human beings than it is now. We're more isolated with our media diet and consumption now than ever. Sex in video games is not even sex. It's pure pornography. That's the thing about it.
But we're not talking about pornography.
Well,
he's saying that it's akin to pornography.
Yeah,
okay.
he's saying it's pornographic insofar
I
as
just don't
not allow this equivocation to be made, because it is a fallacy, for one, and for two, it's not what we're talking about. You can pull the face if you like, my friend, but we're talking about a game which, you know, there is risque outfits and there is boob physics, but there is no.
That's porn.
No,
That's
there is
porn.
no.
Hold on.
Yeah, no, Lore, you have to ask yourself when you, like, depending on what this is, right? So, like, if you can get naked in Baldur's Gate, I would probably not call that pornographic, right? In the same way, I don't think that a sex scene in a TV show is necessarily pornographic. But if you look at the intent of why it is placed in the game, for example, if there was a 3-minute full frontal, you know, shot in fucking TV show, and it was like they just keep fucking, that's a little more pornographic, right? You might be like, wait a minute, I'm not watching a show anymore. They're fully nude fucking, right? So when you're in the game and it's like, okay, there's boob physics insofar as like, yeah, we've just modeled this character. That's very different from Stellar Blade, where every single outfit is meant to sexualize the woman's body, has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not it protects them from the, you know, crazy organic creatures from the dystopian future. It's just meant to make you horny. That's it. Like, that's why it's pornographic.
If when you put it that way, I should probably go to confession.
Well,
okay, sorry, but it just means to me that, like, Stellar Blade is not your game, though.
It's just personal.
That's a different argument,
right?
I'm
saying no. I legitimately
yes.
I mean that's fine. I'm just saying that, like, it just seems like it's not your media. That's all, right?
It's not. You're right.
It's not necessarily.
And it's not mine either. To be clear, right?
Okay, if every video game had like executing human, come again?
I was just surprised Icebeans not into gooner games. I thought she was, but that's okay.
No, I like different gooner games. Okay, maybe not Stellar Blade.
Oh,
but
fair enough.
We'll see.
But I do want a little bit of housekeeping. We have a new guest, Star Nova. Welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Doing well. We're talking about gooning in games, and I figured she'd be great for this panel. Okay.
Why did you think that, Wick?
Yeah, I don't know.
Nova
It's
play a lot
something
of games?
came to me that she might be very useful.
Stand up.
Stand up.
I'm just curious.
Stand
like,
up.
Nova, are you a gamer? Do you play a lot of games?
Yeah, I like him.
Okay, but anyway, on with the show, on with the story, and just jump in whenever you feel like.
Thanks for having me, by
the
way.
Go ahead.
So, what I'm trying to argue, and this is the thing about video games in particular, but as well as modern cinema, these are extremely dense products that are componential. And when a component is easily slotted into media, so much so that it feels like the returns for a business are infinitely, it's always worth it, it will continue to be slotted in. Just like there are always lollies in anime, there seems to always be some element of sexuality, the degree to which gets more and more, I say controversial. Stellar Blade is a more controversial, but I'm saying that there is porn in the video game. The video game isn't purely porn, but we keep putting porn in the video game. I don't think that that's a good direction to go with culture, because I don't actually think that the arguments that hold that we are sexual creatures actually hold for this, because I don't think that that's the motive. I think that this is an isolation.
There is no pornography.
An isolatory form of sex. I wouldn't even call it sex. I would call it just touching yourself.
That's because there's no.
No, I think
there's no porn.
Is that what they're doing?
Hold on. Let's go in order. We can't all talk over each other. Let's start with Jack. We'll go to Icebeans,
I'm
and then
going to
Star
be
will
really,
jump in.
really quick. It's just a sentence is like there is no porn in what you have just said there is porn in, and we shouldn't be equivocating because it is a fallacy and it is plain wrong.
Would you let your boss let you play it at work? Do you think your boss would be okay with you playing Stellar Blade at work?
Okay with me playing anything at work. However,
okay, but if on your break, if you were on the break in your lunchroom and you're playing Stellar Blade,
did let me bring a Nintendo 64 in once. So
okay, fair enough. Well, your boss is an asshole, but what I'm saying is clearly one of these games is not safe for work. Versus if you were playing Kirby or N64, Smash Bros, they'd be like, "Oh, you're just gaming."
Well, he's seen some of the artwork I've had commissioned for some of my characters, and he gave me the.
You want a 5-year-old to play Stellar Blade? Do you understand the difference between a 5-year-old playing Stellar Blade?
I was wondering.
Okay, hold on.
Now this
is a different argument altogether. Now you're talking about ratings.
No, I'm not talking about ratings. I don't believe in that shit. That's stupid. I'm saying we know that it's porn because we know who it's for. We know that a child's not going to understand the sexual undertones of Stellar Blade. We know that it's not being made to stimulate some, because they are underdeveloped for the thing it is attempting to realize inside of your body. It wants you to be erect.
Makes an equivocation.
Okay, but you could say
that fails. Accuses of pedophilia.
What?
Okay, hold on though. Wait. Tuna. No. Wait. Tuna. But you could say. I'm sorry. You could say that. You could say that literally about any other element in that game that is like. For example, if there's a mechanism in a game that literally equates to a dopamine button, like you could make the exact same argument against that. That's what you're saying, except about porn, right?
I'm saying
it's ham-fisted.
This is not a critique of the game. This is a critique of the argument that the thing inside of the video game is not porn. It is porn because it is made with and to the ends that porn is made with and to the ends of. There are things that you don't consider porn that are absolutely porn by the designer and by the purchaser. Why are you gonna just act
sure? But what I think everybody. Okay, hold on a second. What you're considering to be porn is not pornographic for a lot of people.
Can you guys define pornographic?
And
can either of you, Jack or Ice, define pornographic?
I'm actually reminded of a quote. I struggle to define pornography, but I know it when I see it.
I mean, I go by that definition as well. I was going to bring that up.
Does that not indicate that it's a little ambiguous, and especially when we can point at the intent of the author to cause erotic nature in the person playing the game, it might
again you've equivocated.
But again,
that's why I'm asking you. You know you see it, so I guess if you don't think it is, it's not. That's the only definition I get.
Hold on a second. Then can you? Okay, wait. Can you give me an example? Okay, can you give me then an example of a game that is not a specific sex game? Okay, I'm not talking about those actual gooner games on Steam. Okay, I'm talking about a game that uses gooner elements that is on that line for you.
Any fighting game that has booba physics, Dead or Alive, Guilty Gear, Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
We know why it's
and
there.
You say okay, wait, and you say that is pornographic.
There's porn in the game, yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
All right. And you're saying that porn being in the game is a detriment to said game?
Yes, and to culture at all, yes.
I do
Okay.
want to give it.
I'd like to hear it. The
Yeah, I do
explanation
want
to
to.
that.
I do want to give a chance for Star to get in here. I don't want her to get talked over and things like that. What
No,
are your
it's
thoughts?
okay.
Go ahead.
Also, I'm still
My thoughts
listening. I'll be right back.
are some of it's looking a little X-rated, in my opinion.
Little X-rated. Can you give us some examples?
Well, if what I'm pulling up, I have not played this game, by the way. So if what I've just pulled up is what's in there, that's a little on the.
Which one did you pull up? Stellar Blade?
Yeah.
Yeah,
careful
no, it's
Googling that.
absolutely a gooner game for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's
The thing that
pretty.
sucks. The thing that sucks about Stellar Blade is it's a gooner game only insofar as the main character front and center, in the same way that 2B, but to a greater extent, Nier Automata, is sexualized. But the rest of the game, there are games where every single enemy has big cocks and tits and is naked. This is a game. This is why I think Stellar Blade is a good example of the argument, which is it is not a clean division. It is putting the porn of the game front and center and then using the rest of the game as this container, which tries to justify the fact that, oh, well, don't even worry, put it on the PS5. It's definitely not sexual content, while we are seeing people put their foot further and further in the door to create this. And I'm saying this because this is so hard. This is so hard for people to accept, but to put something that has nothing to do with sex and has everything to do with masturbation into the game.
But now but now this is an argument about ratings and what is whether a platform is it absolutely
not.
is. You're saying that
talking about ratings. I'm not an ESRB.
You're talking about what is allowed on the platform, what is allowed to be marketed.
Okay, let me try.
Legislating an allowance. What he's saying is you can clearly draw a distinction between let's say a very hyper-sexualized character who, let's say there's like a prostitute in a game, right? And this prostitute, her whole character is that she seduces people. Like in universe, this could absolutely be a way to have eroticism and have a character that makes sense that does it and put sex in your game. However, when you have the main character of Stellar Blade, which again, I haven't played all the way through this. I've played very, very little of this game. I don't think this character is like going around trying to seduce men. I think she's going around chopping up organic freaks in the dystopian future. But the reason that she is half naked the whole time is not because being half naked is like some way to make her more agile. It's not because any of these other like bullshit reasons that Kojima puts in his games. It's because it's hot. It's because it's
the grand sin against the feminist religion, eh?
Sex sells.
You can't find a woman hot. Can't do that.
Said you can't find a woman hot. I think there's plenty of games that have hot women in it that are not trying to like pornograph. Like, look at her ass. Her ass. So the camera is specifically centered around her ass.
Yes,
here's a good example, actually. Mass Effect 2. You remember Miranda from Mass Effect 2? She has a skin tight suit.
Of course.
I'm sure in universe this makes sense, right? However, the camera will just for no reason at all pan to her ass and random dialogue shots. Not because there's anything on her ass. It's just say, hey, look at her fucking ass right now. And it's not in necessarily the romance scenes. It's just to be like, hey, teenage Mass Effect player, isn't this hot? Go jerk off to this. And it's embarrassing.
I understand that you like it, but you have to recognize, and this is the thing, I support the creation of de-sexing mods. I think that people should be making mods that de-sex games in the same way that people currently force sex into games, so that games become playable again. For people that don't want to just deal with the constant inundation of this shit. But the point is, sex is not, and I should say, it is not something that you put lightly into a game. It is not this random element that you put into a game. It's not like a dodge mechanic where people are putting it in on accident or because the flavor of the week. Porn has never been the flavor of the week. Porn has been the flavor of always forever, secretly sliding itself in like a greasy cock into your ass. It just wants
but
you haven't
explained why the greasy cock in your ass is a bad thing. Go ahead, Tina. I'm waiting.
Wait. Is there actually any
still haven't explained that.
Is there actually any sex in Stellar Blade?
Is she at any point ever? I don't care if there's person-on-person intimacy. The whole point is that the designer was making the character with the intent to create sexual stimulation in the player.
Let me just make sure that we are perfectly level with how I'm viewing what you're saying to me. The game is porn. There is no actual sex in the porn game. Therefore bad.
No.
It doesn't seem like
I'm
what
talking-
you are constructing something based purely on your subjective opinion that you don't like the fact that a female character is designed in such a way, based off a model actually, so she's an actual
I don't care
person.
what the sex of the character is. I don't care about this particular game. Also, I wouldn't define the game as porn. I would say that there's porn in the game. There are multiple statements I've
I
said
say
that
this
you've
to you as
erroneously ignored.
a good Catholic boy. If you were one of my previous popes, you'd be going around the Vatican knocking all the penises off the statues.
Jack, can I give you an example of this? Like, okay, you would agree that without sex, you could have a erotic photo of a naked woman presenting herself, sexually, right? This is like clearly it would still be pornographic, but would not be.
Oh, this is actually
sex.
something I
Yes.
played devil's advocate for with a guy called Lord Mateus over on my stream, and that is, I don't believe this is the case, but I asked him,
So if
can
are you
porn
telling
be
me a
art?
naked woman maybe masturbating would not be porn?
Well, I would consider that pornography, but is that
Okay,
in
cool.
Stellar Blade?
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me finish. If a game rewarded you by beating levels with pictures of naked women or scantily clad women, would you consider that pornographic? Or would you say, well, it's just part of the universe that the characters in this game like to reward the main character
This
with
is very
photos of
apples and
themselves?
oranges here, Soy Pill, because you've.
I'm
gone
not
from-
talking about. I'm giving you a
No,
hypothetical. Please engage with
We
it.
have gone from talking about a video game in which there's an attractive woman kicking ass to
Okay.
here is a game which rewards you with specific sex scenes and acts of
Right.
sexual
I'm
nature.
trying to
You
make
think
an
the
argument,
concept
and we
of
can move
Bayonetta
from there.
is-
Hold on,
So
one at a
would
time,
you
one at a time,
consider
one at a
that
time. Hold on, gang. I know.
One gooner at a time.
Yeah, what exactly? One gooner at a time. That's all I can handle.
So Bill-
I'm a newbie
so
on the
Bill-
gooner thing. Okay, let's let
Wait, can I tag in?
Sure.
just real quick. Let
What
As
Soy
long
do
as
you
you
Pill-
don't
think
threaten me
what
with
do
your
you
knife.
think- What do you think a cutscene in Bayonetta is, if not a reward, a sexually illicit reward for beating the enemy?
She masturbating in it?
Is she masturbating in it? No, she's her brassiere is snapping open. Buttons are shooting everywhere. Her tits going out. Her face is flush. She makes an orgasm sound. She often bends her arches her back in ecstasy.
So you got a bit of fan service going on there.
Yeah, what is
Yeah,
fan
that's fan-
service?
Is there any
Ooh.
nipples?
Jesus Christ, dude.
Well,
Actually,
okay,
yes.
this is
I
a
mean,
very
I
obtuse,
think-
Jack, but like if you were to censor bar over it, like Japanese people doing their porn, does it stop being porn?
Oh, but it's not pornography, is it? 'Cause
What
one,
makes it
she's not-
pornography? Because again, the only
Well,
definition
usually a
you've
sexual-
given
usually
is
a
I know it
sexual
when I
act.
see it.
It sounds more
Usually-
artistic.
I take a picture of
Okay.
your child doing the exact same
And
thing.
here we go
Bayonetta does.
again with
Okay,
the
hold on a
clips.
second.
Good lord.
Wait a
Someone-
second.
so maybe not that one.
Okay,
Why
okay,
go to jail?
okay. But you get hit like okay. Look, we're going into dangerous territory here.
Yeah.
I want to dial it
Any
back.
expression of human sexuality
Just
must
a
be pedophilia.
Just a minute.
You don't get the fucking point, man. You recognize that if a child was doing it, it would be sexual content. But when it's an adult and you don't see
Again.
nipple, you want to.
No, he's just not agreeing. He's
Tuna,
just not agreeing.
Tuna,
He's
you
just not
are
agreeing that it meets
equivocating.
that. He doesn't
Wait, you
meet.
were
it's-
equivocating.
Let me ask you guys something.
What do you? Okay,
let's
do you
hold
care
on.
about the difference between
give us-
sexual content with the intention of creating stimulation and porn?
What was it you saying, Nova?
I was going to say, back in the day, you guys had bikini calendars, lingerie calendars, all of those types of things kind of fell more under, like the old Budweiser commercials and Tool Time with Taylor on Home Improvement. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not always erotic doesn't necessarily mean pornography. So are we
That was
talking
all
more
porn.
artistic? Yeah. No, I don't think that's porn.
It was porn.
A bikini model? That's not porn.
Yeah. When you put a bikini model in something specifically to be gooned to be gawked at, that is porn. That is the point of porn.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
You're a
man of
I'm asking,
extremes,
are we
aren't
talking about in various, revealing clothing, or are we talking specifically, basically almost sexual acts? Because erotic does not necessarily mean
Thank you, Nova.
porn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Which,
exactly what I was saying just
By
before
By
you
the
got here.
way, I used to do some of that stuff. Okay, so that
Really?
hence me, yeah. So hence me.
Sex worker,
asking.
sex worker, sex worker, sex
Nope.
worker.
Nope, nope.
Sex
it's
worker,
just-
sex
nope,
worker,
just
sex
calendar.
worker.
Calm
Nope,
down.
just calendar.
But
Fully
I-
clothed.
Again, Tuna, can we go back to why the greasy cock in the ass is bad? You still have not substantiated that. I get because that is our disagreement. Because here's the problem: is I don't think you and I know what you're not gonna agree. You're not gonna agree. Like this is a loop. We're not gonna agree that what you say is porn is like erotica, right? But why is it bad? Go ahead. Like, are you saying, like, for example, I would say that the pornography, if I'll concede to using your framing in Mortal Kombat, like, I have no issues with it. Like, it's a part of the game. It's ridiculous, and it's a part of the game, just like the excessive blood. Right?
The issue is that the portrayal of women in that game is not, hey, what would a, massive, cool fighter who's like ripping people's hearts out look like? It's how can we make the sexiest, hottest, gooneriest character that people want to jerk off to? And then also then rationalize why they're in this fighting tournament, especially when this is a problem with Mortal Kombat characters that aren't just the gooner ones. They all look exactly the same. And it's just like, okay, this is very clearly just meant to titillate. It's meant to sell the game to younger male audiences. And the reason it's bad is because it makes the game worse insofar as it's not as good as it could be when you have a game like Baldur's Gate 3, which I would say literally has porn in it. They have two naked people having sex in it. And it's like, you know what? The reason I'm not like this game makes sense is because this is something that is built up to as part of the story. People aren't like running around and like fucking you as part of the mechanic to be like, oh, you want to keep playing, you want that dopamine hit, like I'm gonna take off my clothes. It's more of a, hey, you're in a game, you're fighting, your female characters get more clothed as they want to become stronger and more defensive, because obviously that's how it works. It makes sense in game. But also, if you want to have an intimate relationship after you've built up something, you can. That's the point, is that something with good writing knows how to put even pornographic material in the game without ruining and sacrificing the story, whereas before it was used as a crutch to sell to the mostly young male gamer audience. It's just kind of lame.
Wait, hold on. Are you seriously telling me that like you like that Melina in Mortal Kombat like is a detriment to the game? Like because she's like very
the character
scantily
design of all the scantily clad women. Melina actually might be an exception.
I
It's not she like some sort of succubus character versus the other ones are just, hey, I
know some of them are recolors and shit, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So the point is not that the concept of a seductress is bad in the game. The point is that all of these characters are meant to be gooner, booby ladies, because it's meant to appeal to the young male audience.
But they can still provide value though to the game. And still end up becoming iconic characters in their own right,
I didn't
right?
say they couldn't do that. I'm saying that it's worse than when you actually write good characters into the game and it makes sense for why they're dressed a certain way, not they all look this way because in the Mortal Kombat universe you have to wear the bikini or else you get disqualified.
No, and I agree that
the story
bad
in
rational
Mortal Kombat is secondary to the whole bunching and blood and guts and
no, I don't think there's like the story of these games is just, I feel like, at least as far as Mortal Kombat is it feels very tacked on afterwards, right? Like so I don't give a shit as to like exactly what their reasoning is, even if it's bad reasoning, because that's not why I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game so that I can like pick Baraka and no, I mean that wasn't. I only played Baraka whenever I could on the games that had
But
right.
But like,
if I may,
yeah, the little arms guy, yeah.
I think that we're kind of missing Tuna's point. I'm going to jump in a little bit, and then I'm going to introduce Joe Lewis, who graciously agreed to join us. Thank you for joining us, Joe Lewis. The point, I think, and Tuna can correct me if I'm wrong, that he is trying to make is that by focusing on this erotica, pornography, he calls it pornography, but sexuality in these games, it's hurting our culture in a way that it hasn't before, because it is designed to keep you there and have you stimulate yourself, right? Or to stimulate you while you're alone in your room by yourself. Whereas before, with the art in ancient times, with other things, erotic storytelling that was done orally, that was more of a group thing where you would go out into the group and mingle and socialize. And so, if I'm correct in how I'm rephrasing this, and Tuna, again, you can correct me, his problem is that it's designed and placed there by design to get mostly young men to jack off and stay at home.
Yeah, by and large. And also,
I agree with that.
I would go
And that's
further
harmful.
to say that. Say it again.
And that's harmful.
Yeah, it's harmful. I also think that it is both the symptom and the cause, in that we are creating a feedback loop of individualistic sexuality, which is divorced from the common culture. People, we know that there is a decline in sex, there's a decline in going out for any reason at all. And it's because I think that sex is actually a primary motivator in socialization, even with friends, not even just necessarily with the opposite sex or the target sex, whatever you want to call it. We're looking at something, even like the book talk erotica stuff. I don't care about the term erotica here. I would still call it pornography, in that what is extremely clear is that the person is not indulging the development of their personal sexual identity and preferences. They are instead entering an isolatory environment, which is increasingly more extreme, and the extremity of it makes it so that it is more divorced from your real life.
But then why is this related? Why is this seemingly there could be other aspects of these games that tie into that? Why is gooning specifically, or fan service type qualities, which are not new? Why is that the focus here?
It's not
rather than the other other elements of it, like gambling elements, for example, or gotcha, the whole gotcha shit.
Right. I would make the same arguments about that, Ice, right? Like gambling, especially in a game where it doesn't make sense. So, for example, in Pokemon, when you go to the casino and you have to gamble to win some prize, sure, whatever. However, when it's like, hey, we've put gotcha, keys and crates into this game, and we're constantly trying to get you addicted to this thing, and it doesn't have really anything to do with the integrity of the story or the gameplay. It's just a mechanic to keep you doing it longer, and you're sacrificing some sort of better game for this dumb element, especially that preys upon a natural human instinct like sexuality. That makes it worse. And by the way, just to be clear, I'm not advocating for censorship or making this illegal necessarily, although maybe with the gambling thing and kids, I'm more advocating for, look, if you criticize bad media, if you get more people to understand why you think it's bad and they agree with you, less people will purchase it in the free market, and then more people will make good media that I actually want to consume. So that's why I think games like Stellar Blade should be criticized, not that they should be censored, not that they're bad.
Respond real quick.
Also, Wick, real quick. Yeah. You play Sisters of Battle in Warhammer, right?
I do.
What do you think about the Repentia?
The Repentia? They're fine.
Repentia, yeah. The ones that wear the piece of tissue paper over their
they've
boob.
Been stripped because they're punished. They're meant to go in and through blood and battle redeem themselves to repent.
So they get more clothes the more battles they win?
Actually, more armor.
Stupid point.
They're purposefully. Hold on, no, I want to answer this, right? And then we'll toss it to you guys.
Someone in my chat asked me about it. I'm just curious because it looks funny.
But through the lore, they are meant to go into the heart of battle, to the hardest fighting, and rely only on their faith in God. And so they are purposely stripped of their protections, their worldly protections, to rely on the faith in the Emperor to protect them. So it's not for gooning purposes. It's for lore purposes.
No, I've seen Twitter.
Sure thing.
I've seen Twitter.
I'm just saying, it is. I don't know what to tell you. Joe, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts? Gooning and gaming? Are you a gooner?
No.
No?
I'm not a gooner in gaming. So I guess catch me up. Like, first off, my bad. I thought you guys started at 7. I keep forgetting you start at 6 o'clock. So that's my bad. So where are we in the conversation? So I can kind of understand. I don't want to rehash something and then we're going back an hour,
Oh,
okay, we haven't made much progress.
I guess we'll just keep going, and then when you're ready, just jump in whenever you have some thoughts.
I mean, I guess I'll get my take then, or I guess sort of my thoughts on it as I was driving through. I think that there's an entanglement, or I don't even say it's an entanglement. I just think that we have this consumer-driven economy and this consumer-driven identity that's very hyper-individualistic that doesn't really have any sort of thought around the sort of the communal consequence of certain things. Because there's such hyper-individualism, people will think oh, my desires are consistent with the desires of others. And then consumers, and basically when I say consumers, I'm talking people who make these products, essentially can drive the personal narrative, like the individual narrative. So like if you have a character that looks a certain way for decades, the Melina example is a good one, because if anybody, which is why I was like kind of questioning, I don't know if you could seriously play Mortal Kombat, because she did get a redesign in 11, and that redesign in 11 along with the other characters received critical backlash because those characters were desexualized in very overt ways. And now,
I did not see the redesign. I did not hear about this, but also
no, you don't play. It's fine. I'm not going to hold you to the
She
cross
doesn't have
on
a
a game you don't
midriff
play
anymore. You know, she's not in the.
Yeah, I'm not
Now
gonna.
she's
Yeah, I'm not gonna
just
hold people on the
still
cross.
very sexy.
Yeah,
you know?
my point is like I'm not trying to hold people on the cross in a game they don't play, but like it's important to understand like like in certain aspects there's been pushback and challenges with these redesigns. Street Fighter is another one that comes to example where anytime there's a redesign of Chun-Li, there's just intense backlash within the community. And then my concern about these things is from an art perspective, it's totally fine and appropriate for characters to have reworks within one iteration to another. Like those sort of design choices I'm totally fine with. My concern is that when you have a prevailing expression over essentially just sexual parts, like what we consider sexual parts, breasts, ass, waists, and stuff like that, and a character is just sort of pigeonholed to look like that forever, that's not good, since we don't really have the communal networks to like explain why that character is actually fantasy. So people will then go out into the world expecting women to look this particular way, expecting men to act this particular way. And that's my concern. I don't think we have the communal wherewithal for men to understand sort of body differences in women as of yet. But that's just one of many
Don't
things.
accept that in the slightest.
Go ahead, elaborate, please, Jack.
What can I'll, if that's all right, I'll also make this my closer, because it's past midnight and I've got to get up to work to provide for my wife. Which is a point. Like, can I? This is.
Are you the only married one, by the way? I think. Raise your hand if you're
married.
You're married.
Well, fuck you guys.
And so
Engage.
Yeah, engaged.
Fuck
So
you
look,
guys.
what I want to say is that a lot of the argument here has sort of hinged on erotica, not pornography, being something that damages a person's sexuality. Now, actual porn, where you have, full frontal vaginal penetration or other such sex acts. Yes.
Wait, hold on. I thought that you couldn't describe it. I thought it was the indescribable, only ever able to be felt, only when are you watching porn right now?
No, come on, Tuna, come on.
I'm pretty sure I've used sexual acts quite a few times.
The thing is, before you said that the only time that you could ever tell whether or not something is porn is when you're watching it, which makes me think you're watching porn right now.
I'm going to keep talking back to you.
Real quick, Tuna, he does have to go soon, so we're gonna let him finish up his thing.
He's got to go goon to bed.
Nice. Look, I already satisfied the wife for the evening, so I'm just going to go straight to sleep. Look, I am married to a incredibly beautiful, incredibly lovely lady that I imported all the way from the States. And I love her very much. We've been together since for about 9 years now. We've known each other since we were 12 or 13 through the internet. And
Since you were both 12 or 13, right?
Yes,
Okay.
She's only a year younger than me. Well, 9 months younger than me. And she and I have known each other for a long, long time. And throughout that entire time, she has been reading my writing. And I have written some incredibly dark stuff. I've written some incredibly mythologically heroic stuff. I have written some incredibly intense, and I like to pat myself on the back for this, because I have had some very conventionally attractive ladies pay me money to write them smut. So I am quite proud of my ability to achieve the tantalizing effect that is so abhorrent to the...
Hold on, I don't mean to interrupt, but you've been paid to write women smut?
Yeah, elaborate.
I'm not going to elaborate on YouTube.
That's awful. Where did you have to
Where? Yeah, this is
what I'm saying
this
is
awful
when
content.
you actually want to create something, when I create a sex scene in the in the service of a larger story, there is a point to it. Sometimes I just want to make two of my characters kiss or bang because it's like playing with my action men and my sister's Barbie dolls when I was 6. It's that simple. Sometimes people just do things for the enjoyment of it. I take massive exception to everything under the sun being pornographic, and to be honest, quite a bit of exception to Nova here being called a sex worker for what I would consider quite tasteful work from what she's described. And look, people express sexuality. It is okay for people to express masculine heterosexual sexuality. And I think after 2014, Gamergate 2, and the last sort of decade of desexualization of the industry and the flop after flop after flop that gives us, it is okay for us to finally have a booby game. And that's that. And by the way, I want to stress very quickly, and I mean no disrespect to any of you, I find actual real 3D people quite gross. Apart from the wife, I would never ever find any of you attractive in the slightest. I apologize, ladies.
Oh, you mean
but
you don't want to fuck us all?
You mean
Wick,
like
I can make an exception.
I'm find my fellow.
If I ever meet Wick, that's an exception. But what I'm trying to explain is there is a stark difference between what can happen in the realm of fiction. Again, I do fantasy. It's what I do. And what happens within the real world. And if what you're consuming is harming you, tuna, soy, don't consume it. If you can't handle it, just don't do it. And I honestly, I mean that. Like in a mental health, men's awareness month, whatever it is now, then do not consume things that you find damaging to you. However, there are those of us that are, enjoy it and still get on with the usual traditional societal life and community and all the other communist buzzwords that I've heard tonight. And with that, I need to go to bed because I've got to go to work tomorrow and function in the real world. But it's been lovely.
You can
Good
find
night.
him on his. I linked his YouTube in the description. Go check it out.
I'm closing on 1,000.
I gotta point out the fact that he called out the whole idea of Gamergate and look at all these desexualized flops when Baldur's Gate 3, the example that I keep bringing up as something that tastefully inserts sex into their game without it being a distracting mechanic to sell the game specifically, is one of the best selling games of recent memory and one of the best rated games of recent memory. And it does all of that without saying, hey, look at the boobs right in your face. Isn't this cool? No one's saying you can't do this. No one's saying you can't enjoy this. What we're saying is this is dumb and embarrassing. And if I get more people to not play these shitty games that sacrifice good story for being gooner games, then we'll have more better games like Baldur's Gate 3. But
a part that I'm not really buying. Like, I mean, I'll whoever just spoke finish. My bad.
That's me. Hi, I'm the Soy Pill. Nice to meet you, man.
Oh no. Icebean was trying to get in.
Oh, to Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead, Joe. I'll go in afterwards.
All right. So first off, I don't know what that Brit owner was having. I had no idea what he was fucking talking about. I'm trying to hold y'all. I just thought that was some crazy word salad. I don't know why he let it go as long as it did, Wick.
It was his outro, but yeah.
I mean, it's outro, but damn, that's something to say. But again, I missed an hour, so maybe there was something that I missed. I don't really buy too deeply into this idea that there are sort of overt American gooner games. I guess you'd have to point to something from like American company that's like overtly making a game for gooning.
Who made that rape game? I mean,
that's a real sentence.
Lollipop Chainsaw American. That's a real sentence.
Unfortunately for you, unfortunately, Tuna, you're gonna have to be a bit more specific than that.
The game that was called The Rape Game.
It's called that?
Wow, they allowed that?
No idea.
I'm shocked.
Oh, excuse me, no. Lollipop Chainsaw was Japanese. I apologize. You're right. That was not American. It was just had American voice actors in it.
Yeah, because we have examples of games that are even based on sexualized IPs that are just out in the public. A game that comes to mind is Action Timeman, and even then they have to play this fine line between what's acceptable on Steam versus what's acceptable on Play Stores in the United States. And very often they're put in positions where they have to have some level of. And again, this is a Japanese company making a Japanese game. So like that, but when they're interacting with the States, they're going to have to be doing different types of toning down to the best of their ability, which comes to like costume censorship, but I've never seen, at least in recent memory, of an American company having to participate in that level of overt adjustment of the presentation of their female characters, even their male characters. That's
Maybe
why I'm asking, like,
Overwatch,
where's this
right?
the idea of,
Do you remember the Tracer's butt controversy in Overwatch? I remember that. That was semi-recent, maybe 2016.
none of that's in the Bible. You want to explain that to me?
So Tracer had a big protruding bubble butt, and they censored it, and everyone freaked out because her butt was too big, apparently. So they had to. Blizzard did this. I thought that wasn't a big deal. I think that is like not necessarily super gooner. It was just a normal butt, but enough people complained about the female representation in the game. So that might be a place where like I don't think the line has been crossed, but that's not necessarily a gooner game specifically, especially with a game that has such a wide variety of body types, and like the girls don't moan sexually when they get hit like in some of the League of Legends original content voice lines. So
real funny you bring up League of Legends. Real quick, so are you saying then that Baldur's Gate isn't a gooner game?
yeah, I don't think Baldur's Gate is a gooner game in the same way Stellar Blade is.
Okay.
So they're gooner games?
But by like Tuna's definition, that would be a gooner game.
Well, maybe me and Tuna might differ on this, but my point is when the sex is not part.
I mean,
of the
you're
writing, right, and there's
yeah,
more like I don't think Stellar Blade has a sex scene in it. Maybe not. I've never played all the way through. Baldur's Gate
it just has the
naked,
other sexual
full-on nudity sex scenes, right? But I think those are not gooner insofar as they are not like the driving force of the game. It's not, hey, the character on screen is always overtly sexual. We've drawn her as this like almost like sex doll character specifically, like they do in Stellar Blade. Which, by the way, it's not like these people.
But the
don't
sex
exist,
is part
right?
of the appeal, though. The sexual
I'm
elements
aware
are
of that.
part of
I'm
the
saying
Well, I
that
think-
is worse.
I
in
think the
writing,
difference
like,
between games like Baldur's Gate and games like Stellar Blade. Baldur's Gate, you don't have to have sex with anyone. You can, the sexuality in it, you can almost entirely opt out
Sure,
of.
you can turn it off. Yeah,
The
effectively turn it off.
Stellar Blade.
you can
The
turn
real
everyone
sentence.
down.
Stellar Blade.
Jesus Christ.
Let them down easy.
That's it. Stellar
Well, no,
Blade
turn
is-
it off as in like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Icebeans, you were
You
the
know.
I have no idea. I have no idea what that means. I don't
We're
want to
not gonna
interrogate
go
what
in-
that means.
We're not going to go into
practically,
it. We're not going to go into it. No, we're gonna pretend it wasn't said. Okay, but the point
right?
is,
Jesus.
Stellar Blade and games like that, you can't. There's no choice.
Yeah, but-
it's just.
But okay, hold on.
boobies
But
all the
but
time.
hold on a
Can't
second.
turn-
I think what I'm fundamentally not understanding is that, you know, to me, when you are playing Stellar Blade, there's no wishy-washiness about it. You are playing a booby game, more booby game than normal.
Yes.
I
The booby character is framed
You've
in center
signed up for
screen.
this.
She
signed up for
moves
this.
in certain ways.
This
to
isn't- this
express her
isn't-
boobiness,
wait,
right?
This is
Like,
an empty. This is. You are going to struggle with this. I think because Stellar Blade, we can agree that the marketing and the discourse around it sexualized it. But the only thing sexual about Stellar Blade is that the character is dressed scantily clad. People, I want to play Stellar Blade, but I'm not going to because there's no way for me to play it in a way that doesn't make me feel like I am having sex rammed down my throat. Right?
Okay, then that's fine. I think that like I'm not saying you're not valid for feeling upset at that, right? Like every single
it's not
time
just about upsetness. It's not just about
No, hold
upsetness.
on. Wait, no.
This is
I don't mean
this
to
is
minimize that. I don't mean to minimize that because I do think Yes.
This is not about scale. This is not about scale. I'm saying that you are missing the core actual issue to me. Because I have no problem with pornography existing at all. It is about the slow creep of it into mainstream media such that you cannot engage inside of the media landscape without having to ignore not just normal, but specifically private pornographic depictions of of sexuality. If
Wait,
every
so then
time
we-
that you watch a TV show, somebody that looks like Joe Louis, but instead he's got gold chains and he's doing some fucked up accent, you wouldn't just say, oh, well, if you don't want stereotypical
Joe's face.
renditions of
Like,
black people,
oh.
don't watch that show. You would say, wait, why is CBS airing this? Like, what's going on?
I would watch another show that doesn't do the stereotypical. If that's what I want, that's what you're saying. Like that's
So
my
wait,
point. Is that if
main
you don't
character-
feel
The
you
main
don't like
character's
Stellar Blade,
name
You don't like
imagine
sex being rammed down your throat. Don't play Stellar Blade.
You're watching a TV show where the main character's name is N-word Scissorhands. The dude has Jar Jar Binks' voice. We're talking about things that you can't honestly believe that people should not be thinking, wait a second, why is this happening in a mainstream game and not just some shitter game that's on Steam?
This is a mainstream game we're talking about?
Making is that it's
Stellar
like,
Blade.
what critiquing media, especially very
He's
popular
about
media.
the theoretical. Yeah.
It's not just about if you don't like it, don't play it. This is a very important part of critiquing media that is very popular and saying, hey, this is a counter narrative to the idea that this either should be normalized, we should make more games like this, or that it's okay in the sense of like, this is like good. Like, it's not good in our opinion. That's
No,
the
okay.
point.
And Soy Pill, I think, don't get me wrong, it's not that I have an issue with the critique. I don't have an issue with the critique, okay? Especially if you have a game that does most of these things and then just goes in with the excessive sexuality, that's fine, right? Because what you're effectively saying is, well, I would play this game, it checks off all these boxes for me, but it has this excessive sexuality that I can't get over, and so like I'd like a game like that, please. Can somebody make that, or can you consider adding it or whatever? That's fine. I don't have an issue with that specifically. My approach is just more of a let the content be made, and eventually the games that do check off that box and also have the amount of sexuality that you're fine with or that is tied in well, those are the games that are going to rise to the top, or that you have to make sure. Well,
you're kind of making just like a tautological argument. Like this over sexualization in games has been on the decline since, I don't know if you were like a gamer back in like 2007, 2008, but it was a lot more like overt with, especially when games were not really marketed to women at all. Now it's much more of a co-ed space. Before it was simply just like, hey, here's the reward for beating this level. Hey, like go into the GTA strip club and goon a little bit to these strippers. It had nothing really to do with the game. It was meant to market to the target audience. It's on the way out. I do agree that, yeah, I'm not going to buy it, but also speaking out against it is important because I want fewer games like this to be made, and eventually like it'll just kind of be on the marginalized like areas. But what's your point? I mean, yeah, that's how all.
But my problem is that like, okay, so the again, like games like Stellar Blade or games that are basically like porn games, but with a very basic mechanics and everything else slapped on to whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess those games, like, don't get me wrong, I would have a distaste for those games as well, but them existing, there's a market demand for that, and so that demand is being met.
Okay.
So I guess, like, for me, it's like, for example, I stopped playing games for a reason, and I never ever play games for certain reasons, and I guess I don't understand why this isn't considered in the same vein.
So again, this goes like I criticize bad movies.
I'll let you go. Just
I'm
housekeeping
like,
real
this
quick.
is slop.
Housekeeping.
When these make a lot of money, more of them will be
real
made,
quick, please.
and they'll.
Soy Pill, please. I'll let you finish, but after you finish, I have maybe a direction to take us. And,
sure. I'm just saying that having a vocal movement of critique of things that you consider bad is an important part of making those things happen less. Because if you see the ground of just, if you don't like it, don't play it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Yeah, sure. But I think there should be like very strong pushes against things that I disagree with, because otherwise those things become more mainstream. That's how you get these slopification Disney movies that are coming out now, because not enough people are calling out just how fucking terrible some of these remakes are. And they make $400, $500, $3 jillion. Whereas when something really good and original, some IPO that like some person put their heart and creativity comes out, if we don't get enough people to support that thing, that's going to happen less. And I want more good things to be made, because unfortunately, although everything is, the free market, sometimes it is a zero-sum game with these studios and where they give money. And I want that to be going to good things.
Okay, gang. I do want to, I think maybe to help the conversation progress a little forward, I want to introduce kind of the gooners themselves, so not just the games, but the culture around it. Over and over and over again, when media comes out, so not just games, we're talking any kind of media comes out, a movie or a show. Well, let's look at the HBO Last of Us 2, right? People complain that the main character, the girl in that game, or that show, I should say, which is based on a game, isn't hot, that she's ugly. And you constantly see that whenever a game comes out and the main character who is female or one of the main female characters isn't hot enough or sexy enough or what have you, they get attacked. They get attacked by a swarm of greasy, gamey gooners. Is all I can tell them. Like
greasy.
Tuna is poisoned.
gooners.
Tuna has poisoned you with this grease analogy.
I
You
just,
said the word grease
but
more than tuna,
hold on,
actually.
you recognize that
People
that's
look like
happening.
where?
I want to ask Star, maybe get her in a little bit on this, right?
Yeah.
At what point would you? Let me ask you this:
Make the leads
How
hot again? Is that the
important-
question, Wick?
How important?
How important are hot leads?
Yes, how important?
I mean,
are
that's why I
hot
watch Jack Reacher,
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page here.
It's important. It's no different than casting for a movie. You'll notice the less attractive the main stars are, the less pull the overall project is going to have.
Is that
Same thing
is
with a front man
good for
from a
society
band.
or bad? Is that good for our culture or bad? What do you think? Or neutral?
Having somebody attractive as a front man for whatever industry it is not a bad thing, because more attractive people in general make more sales. Period, and it's about the money, right? It's about the
Make
money
more what?
first.
Yeah. Can I give a counterexample to this where
Sales?
I completely agree with
Make more
Margo,
sales, yeah.
But take a look at, for example, they're casting for that movie that's a documentary on Sam Bankman-Fried, who is a not good-looking man, and his wife looks like a weird bug, right? And I think they're sacrificing artistic integrity of retelling that story because they cast two very attractive people as these not very attractive characters, and they don't look the part. And maybe they're going to do some makeup to make it fit, but what the problem is when you use sex to sell, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, sex is
Just
great.
like
It's
a
a part
white
of
guy.
sexuality. It's using sex to sell in a way that is sacrificing what otherwise would have been a more coherent story, where it's like, wait, does it make sense that the character just got naked for no reason on level 3? Oh no, they just do that every once in a while to make you play the game more. That's when I think it's bad, because it's like, well, this isn't really like part of the story in a way that makes sense. This is just you trying to make people play the game more. In the same way the gambling aspect doesn't fit into the world. That's my problem.
Yeah,
The
and-
problem is not hot characters. The problem is not being attractive. The problem is when it's not fitting in what would otherwise be a more coherent and better written game.
Star, I kind of want to pick that because I
Sure.
think you have the better take here. So not in the better, I just think there's a little bit more to delve into that. So do you think that like cultural significance and historical significance be damned in media? If they're attractive, that's what's gonna have to drive the culture forward or the community forward?
Okay, so I have a history in the entertainment industry. Okay,
I don't care, but
so
yeah.
I look at it from the standpoint of how a story is written, and then casting comes into play. I don't really look at it from that standpoint because they're going to choose that based off of the product. Would I necessarily agree on moving so far away from a character that they don't represent the character anymore? No, as a writer, I would not. But as a production company, well, they're going to want to rake in the money, right? And it's going to sell further into other foreign markets, the most attractive and most presentable that you bring it. Do I necessarily agree, though, all the time? No, because it does sacrifice art.
Well, I don't believe you.
But the
Let's
bean
parse this out.
the bean counters are in
You're
control of
dancing
everything.
around it, though. You're dancing around it where you're like, it's a great thing to do if you're an evil, money-obsessed goblin. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I kind of want to parse that out, Superno. Do you think that the media landscape is? I'm not going to use those filler words that he made, but like, do you think that they are strictly profit driven?
Oh, fuck yeah, they are. Absolutely.
Do you think it's ever redeemable away from like? Do you think there's going to be a revolution in media that's going to be against profit motive?
No, because
Or do
the
you think it's
consumer.
possible?
No, it's possible, but it'd be up to the consumer. If once the consumer goes in a different direction, boycotts and moves strongly away, and the profits decline, that's when you're making the statements to all these conglomerates, because they're all conglomerates now. They're not even independent anymore.
Okay. What
This
do
just
you
doesn't make
think?
sense.
So, like,
Documentaries are getting bigger than ever. YouTube is crushing television and cinema. Cinema, by the way, is slop for pigs.
It is.
Like,
I agree with
We
that.
already have a movement going away from this bottom of the barrel slop for hogs. Hogs who, oh, well, it's the profit motive. I'm just going to go with it. Obviously, I have to have the director's financial stability in mind. Let them die. Let
I
them
don't know
die
about-
for.
I'm just imagining the other cars looking into your car, and like you're in having like a
screaming.
schizo rant at your phone, right?
Yeah, I guess it's like
Oh,
I guess it's kind of like a pretty.
Swap!
I think it's pretty like gloom, kind of like a pretty gloom way of like thinking about it, right? Where if the conditions are on the consumer, that would suggest that you're going like before we can even reach this, it's going to require some type of like not only cultural but social and economic and political revolution. Do you think that's probably what needs to be done, Star?
Sorry,
Probably,
Joe.
yeah. I mean, Tuna called me a sex worker because I said I had posed for a calendar shoot one time, and I was fully
think he was being
clothed
facetious.
in a bikini, but yet he confused
That's sex work.
sexy
That's
or
sex
no,
work.
it's not. No, it's not.
That's
No,
sex
it's
work.
not. No, it's not.
That's sex
Oh,
work.
never
No,
mind.
it's
You
okay.
Oh, hold
wait,
on,
all
you-
the old
okay, hold on, hold on, hold on. All of you
all
stop.
the
All of you.
Budweiser
Okay.
commercials
All
is
of you
sex work.
Hold on, all of you stop. Because you screaming it's sex work and you screaming no, it's not. Let's get some actual dialogue here. Why is it sex work, Tuna? And then you can tell us why it's not.
No, you know
And also,
why
what's
it's sex
wrong with
work?
sex work?
It's not a catalog where we're selling the fucking bathing suit. Even that half the time is fucking sex work. It's specifically, do you want to see a woman in a bathing suit? Buy our calendar.
Yeah, it's literally the epitome of sex sells, and then you say it's not sex work. I kind of agree. It's on the spectrum of it. It's nowhere close to having sex for money, but I mean,
It's
The reason
marketing.
people would call it not
It's
sex work
marketing.
is because they think sex work is dirty.
yeah,
I'm
kind
pro
of.
whore.
No, I mean,
oh my goodness, all right.
I'd like to.
Hold on, no, Tuna. When I take a hold on, no, stop,
question,
please. Everyone knows I have a running gag, if you will, on my stream that if you give me $50, I'll take off my shirt. Is that sex work?
That's literally sex work.
It is sex. Well, it's a
Am
mix
I a
of two
sex
things.
worker?
One, it's sex work, and it's also tricks for treats. It's a humiliation gag.
I don't.
Oh,
feel
you probably think the boogeyman is behind every shadow too.
No, I'm
Wait,
not a person.
who said this is a bad
a
thing?
person that knows when
No,
a woman
okay.
being stripped is for sex appeal.
Wick, I think it's reasonable to say that you saying that if I get some type of monetary compensation, I will do this to my body is kind of dicey.
Yeah, the
And I
only
think in the
difference
same
that you're not a hot
vein
girl.
to Starnova, maybe a softer way of looking at this is: would you have done that if the monetary compensation was at or greater than what you received?
It's called modeling. I that has nothing to do with it. It's called modeling.
I'm
I was trying
asking
to
you a
go
question.
somewhere.
Right. I'm asking you a question. Like, if you had substance in your life where you didn't have to worry about money, you didn't have to worry about your health, you didn't have to worry about your material needs, would you still model?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, absolutely.
Even if there's zero profit margin. So I'm saying that we completely detach from a society where monetary value is attached to these things. You would still model?
What's the motive?
Because I was
the
a front
alternative
man.
motive?
I'm a front
What's
man.
the motive?
To like feel validated and like think you're.
Is it for attention?
Hot, right?
Are you?
I'm not trying to like Starno. I want to make something so clear. I am not trying. Listen, I understand.
Oh no, I don't think you're doing that. I think the
I'm not trying to
so-called
go
virtue signaling Puritan down there is, which you're
name's Tuna.
gonna try and tell me
Wait, he's
doing
saying there's
some
nothing wrong
modeling
with
and
it. It's
acting,
not
being a
Puritan.
professional
You're a
dancer
dog.
and musician
You're a
makes
dog of a
me
woman.
whore.
No, okay, wait, no. It just sounded like you're putting a negative spin on it, Tuna, initially. But I know you're not. But not everyone gets that. But
Yeah, I guess like
Can I go back and answer? Can I go back and answer Joe's question, if you don't
I don't even
mind?
know what I asked. What was it?
I mean, you were basically saying like, would we need some kind of revolution to essentially like change how it is? Okay. Yeah. So basically, my thing is yes, I think so. But here's because just as an example, and to bring back Soy Pill's argument from earlier, right? The slop that Disney puts out, all the fucking live action films. You actually can't say that nobody's pushing back on it. As soon as a new movie is released, Like the next day, I didn't even know that Lilo and Stitch had been re-released. I just saw my entire YouTube page filled up with Lilo and Stitch is bad. The remake was dog shit. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
And it's
I didn't
people
say
who
no
are...
one's pushing back. I'm saying
No,
more
hold
people
on.
should
Yeah,
push back.
no. I understand. I guess my point is that these people are making, and these are some of these channels that are pretty big, and I've watched them for years, so on and so forth. I'm sure Big Joel will put out a video, Shafrila's Productions, all that shit. Yeah, that's great, and that's fine. But all of those views and even those channels are completely dwarfed by all of the people who go and watch it regardless. Because of nostalgia, because they're caught up, like they're Disney adults or they're caught up by Disney, whatever, right? So, like, there's nothing. I don't see anything really that can change that specific part of it, right? Like consumers.
I don't
consumers
understand.
are just
Are
going to
you
consume.
saying there's no way to shift market demand for things by
No,
having enough
I think
people
there
react
is.
negatively to it? Like
No,
there
no,
is
no.
a
I think-
negative reaction is just like
No.
okay.
I
So
think,
I do need to. I do need to read a couple more super chats. Thank you for the super chats. We got one from TL1524 for $5 to say, "Funny to watch a party of sex work is real work. Complain about a game character who dresses too sexy. Soy's just mad that he just sucks at Soul Games." Thank you for the $5.
I'm not mad. I actually do suck at soul games though, so he's not wrong.
And then $5 more from
so do I.
from Xerxes from Bass FC. And Xerxes, you know what?
Hey.
Fuck it. If you want on,
Oh
come on in.
no! Oh
Xerxes,
no!
we love you, Xerxes.
I just
Says-
got remonetized.
Let's be real. It's kind of goofy to say bikini modeling is sex work. That's really stretching the definition. Are yoga pants sex coded now too?
I mean, they
Laughing
are
emoji?
They are
not intentionally, but
Just to answer that.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know.
Hold on,
I don't know.
start over. Do you
let's-
disagree
let's-
with that
let's
though?
just-
Do you disagree that
let's just
yoga pants
engage
are
with that
sex-coded?
practically, right? Like yoga pants are essentially a tool to make a particular task easier for the participants. That's what it is at its core. When it gets to the
Camel toe.
public of that, because when it engages with things like
knuckle.
patriarchy,
Can I
misogyny,
say-
etc., then you run into that problem where it's like, yeah, go for it. Star, what's up?
Yoga pants actually came from dance wear for dancers, Broadway. I did that stuff.
Yeah.
So before yoga
def-
pants was like a huge thing and you see everybody and their twin brother wearing them, that's where it started from. It wasn't like meant
Yeah,
to be like some major, a culture changing thing,
Sure.
No,
I
but
mean,
I
that's why
think- I
that's why I
think-
said it was a tool to make a specific activity easier. That specific activity, I guess you're trying to, I don't know
Movement.
what it's engaging with,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know what you said is how it's engaging with what I said, but I think maybe you're speaking more broadly.
I'm speaking
But
about
I think, no, but I think the issue is that you can. I wouldn't. So, for example, I wouldn't go so far as to say that what you're doing specifically is like sex work in the same way that other sex work is, but it is using sexual elements to sell the calendar, right? Like it's not like you're.
well, you guys are
hiding.
going through the culture now, which is like this Puritan virtue signaling, very feminist driven kind of narrative. I'm not a feminist.
How old are you?
Hold
Like,
on. No one's
I'm
saying
in my
it's bad,
30s.
Nova.
What business is
No,
it?
no, no, no. I'm not
It's
saying it's bad
No,
either.
not you.
And
This
it's
guy
not-
asked me how old I was.
No,
Yeah.
most of us are in our 30s. What do you mean?
Uh-huh.
You're going
Yeah,
through
we
this
have
culture
grown
right
ass
now,
adults
not.
going on these things.
I'm 42.
I guess like
by the
Star.
way.
Well, I meant
maybe-
her because she seems like she's like 25. I don't mean anything bad. I'm just
Damn,
being
good for
pejorative.
you.
How
Good
old
for
are
you.
you,
Good for you,
Icebeans?
Icebeans. Take the
I'm
flowers.
30. I'm 34.
Yeah.
Take the
Oh,
flowers.
and
Take the flowers and run.
You look good.
when I was growing up, there was a period of time where, for example, my mom wouldn't let me wear yoga pants unless I was wearing a shirt that went past my butt, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that had more to do with being a teenager stuff or whatever. But going off of that though, I can see that there is something there to your butt being outlined and stuff like that, and so that does. It's just that now in this current day and age, yoga pants are now considered pants in the sense that I could go and not get gawked at necessarily Now, if
you
I were
will
to
get
go back
gawked
to
at.
my
Let's not kid ourselves. You will.
okay, well, I'll
Sorry.
be gawked at, but not in the same way, right?
Specifically
Not in the
you.
same way.
Yeah.
Okay, look, if I went back to my native country dress, like the way I'm dressed right now,
Yeah,
I've
you
literally
wouldn't be.
I've gotten the grandmas moving their daughter away from me in the grocery
Yeah.
store
Yeah.
so that they don't see
Sure.
me, right? And
Well,
I guess that's what I mean is that like
There's-
these
Well,
it's
yeah,
it,
because
it
there's
hints
two
to
things
that.
happening at the same time,
Yeah.
and before I guess this panel's about to go really sideways. I can already tell by the avatars. So I want to get this out of the way. I want to ask this question for
Oh, no,
Star.
he's
Judge my
harmless.
That way we can
Right.
get this out of the way. So Star, right?
Yes,
If this entire group of people's material conditions are met, we're going to say financially, socially, politically, economically, all of these things, would they still do that activity? I'm just going to run through some professions. You ready?
Okay.
Ugh.
No, no.
Let me ask you
Lawnmower.
one question though. How can I speak for other
Oh.
people?
I'm
Like, I
just
can't-
saying, like,
To be
I'm
fair.
saying, based on the
People, you
profession,
know?
would you reasonably assume that they would stop? Generally speaking, that's all.
All right, let's do
Okay,
it.
sure. It depends
All right.
though.
Sure, landscapers.
Stop.
I mean, that's a lot of hard work. I mean, if you got the money, you don't have to do it anymore, obviously. But it's a good profession.
Okay, plumbers.
Quit.
Necessary.
Wait,
But
strippers?
I guess they would quit. I don't know. You want me to answer
Quit.
stuff for other people?
Right. So I'm just going through different professions, and I'll say like the one I said before, because of internet and stuff. I said strippers.
Oh,
Quit.
I would hope they would quit, but
Why?
because I've known strippers. They start off normal. They start off not addicted to drugs and doing things that they would regret, and then once they get into it, that's the road they head down usually.
So they wouldn't.
Math.
So they would stop
Yeah.
because they're heading down to drugs and substance abuse.
Well, also prostitution. Most strippers are
Why
also
are they
prostitutes.
taking the
these days.
drugs? Why are they taking the drugs?
Because
Put up with the
it's like being a rock star, man. Like drugs.
Well, that's why I presupposed.
it's accessible, huh?
Well, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why I presuppose that all of their material conditions could be met. So, like, let's say they do want some type of controlled substance. They have access to that. And they have access to
Yeah.
food,
Well,
shelter, all
Joe,
these things.
Joe, you're missing the
I would
fact
hope
that
so, but hey,
very commonly, the reason that these hookers, prostitutes, strippers, like the common factor of on the street sex workers, which by the way is not the only, which is why she's going to try and weasel out of this. The reason they're taking drugs is because they're getting raped, they're getting groped, they're getting battered, they're getting chased, they're not getting paid enough, their life sucks, they hate themselves, nobody loves them. Like there is a slow decline into absolute individualism, right? And the way that they numb it out
Mechanism.
is drugs.
So the angle that I was trying to go to was not that. I guess I believe that there are people who do certain aspects of labor and do it by virtue of the labor itself. I think I can point to teachers, certain aspects of landscapers, in particular carpenters, farmers. I think some professions do this because they understand that these things have a greater good for society. And I'm not quite convinced that if the material conditions were met for all people, you would have things like sex work and strippers. I'm not quite convinced
Hold on.
that profession would
I
still
can-
exist in the landscape I'm describing.
Here, I can just grant you that a lot of strippers would no longer be strippers. That's fair, right? But there are some who absolutely would. They'd be like, yeah, I
Yes,
just like it. It's
I
fun.
was gonna
I like
say
the
that.
attention.
Yeah.
How
I
do
was
you
gonna
tell
say
the
that.
difference between a stripper that does it because they like stripping and a stripper that does it because they like the money? What's that
I
difference?
don't know enough.
I mean, you asked the
Uh,
same question you asked Nova
Joe.
already, which was if you were a millionaire and you didn't need money, would you still do your calendar thing? And she said, yeah, because
She
she
said
liked
yes.
she liked the gratification from it. It's not about, oh, I'm providing a service necessarily. It's just I like this. And so clearly some people might do the same thing, right?
I
don't
would
think it's
need to
gratification.
perform
Sorry, I didn't
further
mean to put that word in your mouth. I'm sorry.
examination
It's okay.
on the subject in order to find out whether they like it or not.
What would that
No, but-
examination
Yeah,
look
reasonable.
like?
Yeah.
Send it over.
that
Send
was
it
a
over
joke,
to
my friend.
our trippy over here.
I was just
listen.
playing around.
I
Send him the calendar.
I'm
If
just
it's
playing
not
around.
sex work, if it's not sexually explicit, if it's not something that inside of the thing that you did, you recognize that it is for the sexual elation of another, send it to Trippy.
I mean, it's a case by
Have you
case
ever
basis,
watched
right?
John LaJoy, Tuna? Do you
Have
know
I
who
ever
that
watched
is?
what?
John LaJoy?
John LaJoy.
John LaJoy. Have you ever seen
I just heard
any
a
of his
disembodied
YouTube stuff?
voice. I have no idea where that came from.
It's just
The clown
this
guy.
clown. No offense to
My
you, Trippy.
mouth
No, I
moves
don't
when
know
I
what it
speak.
is. Don't know what
Okay.
it is.
No, it was like
That's
super
fine, I was
soft.
just
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Whoever spoke, their
Hold on, yeah,
mic
I
is mad
understand.
soft.
Turn
But
yourself
I,
up.
I do
just
want
a
to
little bit.
ask. So I'm kind of curious to ask, like,
Do you have a
Tuna Chip
camera,
a couple
Bass?
questions.
Also, if
Me?
you don't have a
Well,
camera,
of course I have a
please turn your
camera, but I'm not. Fine.
Oh,
then.
I know this
I'm
black
not-
guy.
I'm
Yeah,
not
turn your camera on,
decent.
then.
Oh, he lights up when
I
he
know
talks.
this
I'm
voice.
not decent. I'm not. The lighting is terrible.
Who
give me a
cares?
sec.
He's only
Look at
dressed from the
Tuna.
waist
Who
up.
cares?
Yeah,
Look,
Tuna's
we
gotta
literally
make a
hot.
light
Yeah,
That's
right.
true.
This
That's true. He is in the
conversation
car. But listen, the thing that is kind of peculiar to me is how far this goes when we look at things that are sexualized, right? Because the reason why I asked about yoga pants is because if a lady were to put on yoga pants, that's more or less the silhouette of her naked body, right? If that be the case, then it's like, well, like, is she acting sexually because she's wearing yoga pants?
Where do you think this idea that she's acting sexually or even presents himself sexually comes from? You think?
I want to answer the
That's
question,
a good
Joe, and then
question.
we can go down that line.
That's a real question. I'm asking genuinely. Like, where do you
no,
think
no,
this
it would-
idea?
it would-
I want to answer his question. We're going to do first in, first out. You cool with that?
I have no idea what that means. That sounds like a sex act.
Well, he means he wants to speak first, and then you can say something.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Well, so we don't-
Cook your
straightforward,
whole
man.
dish. I'll
The
chill.
scope.
Yeah, cook your whole
Expand the
dish. I'll chill.
scope. Okay. It is obviously context born. If a person is in the gym, it is very likely that they are wearing it because we know the amount of sweating. You need something elastic. You want something that doesn't build up the water such that it takes on
Right.
weight.
But if
The
they came
context
on
of-
stream with yoga pants,
But we know right
Maybe.
now that if you go to Pornhub.com and you type yoga pants into the search bar, you will find people that have explicitly put on yoga pants for sexual elation. And we know that the reason they have, not only because they've tagged it, but because everything that they are cultivating in that video is
But
for
what if the
sexual
lady
elation.
went to the grocery store? Could we say she's displaying herself sexually there?
Just
Different
wearing
context. She's
pants.
on the gym
Right.
now.
She's
So
just
now it's
wearing
just
pants.
wearing.
Don't be
So,
a
but that's what I'm
fucking
saying, right?
pervert.
So
We're
when
gonna have
you
to-
say that
let's-
that's
How about
being
that shit?
perverted, but if she
You could
models
look
for a
up-
calendar, you easily say that that's sex work. But then, like,
Yes,
why would
exactly.
you then be
Because-
just like, well, it's just pants here, but
Tuna,
here
you can-
modeling is sex work? I
You
don't
can go on the
understand
same
But why is
website
how
the
we
and
woman
look
jumped
up
wearing
there.
woman
Why is
dressed
the
like
woman in a-
grandmother.
Why is the woman in a
you'll
bathing
get
suit
videos.
instead of a wheelchair?
And I know you
If we're
know.
just trying
You
to
can be in
like,
a bathing suit
get
in the
people to
wheelchair.
fund
though.
money.
Question.
go ahead.
Are you like offended by everything on a woman? Like, what's the problem here?
I have no
Tuna doesn't
offense.
He is.
have
I
to
just
be a
recognize
He's not
what
that
is.
type of guy.
I mean,
I
Kinda sounds like he
recognize
might be
what
a
is
Muslim.
and is not porn star,
He's
and I'm
doing the
pro
practice.
Oh
porn and
no.
I'm pro whore.
No,
you
this
okay
is
with
not a
women
winning
showing their
point,
ankle?
Tuna.
no,
Like, but you're starting to remind, like, I'm a preacher's daughter, dude. You're starting to remind me of some of those got to have your hair up in a wob naughty and all the way down to here and your skirt all the way
Ironically,
down to your
I'm
like, what do you
closer
want?
to that than
Everybody
Tuna
have a
is.
burqa or something?
Here's the irony. The irony stars. I'm closer to that than Tuna is, right? I've actually conversated and debated with him. But the
Yeah.
thing that's just interesting to me is why we don't just go the full extra mile then, right? Like if we understand that a woman is
Sharia.
displaying herself sexually
Sharia law.
when she's wearing short gym shorts or when she's wearing yoga pants, why don't we say that she's displaying herself sexually? But we then understand for this magazine that isn't sexual, actually, isn't her in a bikini. Then we say that that's sex
Hold
work.
on.
Like, how do we go?
Cersei,
how do we
Cersei,
figure
just
these
real quick.
out?
Hey,
Just
Star,
hold on,
Star,
just
real
quick,
quick,
just real
before
please.
It was a
Yes.
Star,
calendar.
before you're
please,
misrepresented.
Yes.
Please, Cersei, you understand that the bikini model calendar is meant to be sexy.
Sure, but how does that sex work?
Because
I
there's a person
don't agree it's sex work,
doing
but
work.
it is.
Yeah,
sex
exactly
work.
what I'm saying.
It's
I
meant
don't
to be
agree it's sex
sexy.
work either.
You
Here's
don't
the thing:
make
yoga
a
pants
non-sexual
are sexy,
Also,
bikini
but
calendar.
but
This
is that
total
sex work? You
semantics,
see what
and
I'm
I'd
saying?
like to get back to video games if we
And
can,
what's up,
because
Star?
Yeah,
Star,
I'll
Star,
be
Star,
next.
There's a lot of people
Star,
wanting in. There's a lot of
real
people
quick,
wanting in.
so
There's a lot of
fast.
people wanting in.
Promise.
I want to give. Hold on. I want to give the mic to CPCA. They've been wanting to get in for a
Who?
little bit. If you have a
What?
camera, please turn it on. But otherwise, go ahead.
Strange
CPCA,
abbreviation.
please.
CP
There's been
certification
another
agency.
person in this call this entire time.
Yes.
There have
what
been
the
several
fuck?
people.
And his
Oh.
camera, then he turned
He's
it off.
spoken a few times.
Yeah, go
Oh
ahead.
man, I'm
please.
so panel dry now. You guys are making. I
Okay,
miss
then
Wick
I
chat
have
already.
a simple
I mean, I
question.
could have replied with, "I
would
can make
be
you
the
wet," but
difference
don't know if this
between
is the place.
Hold on.
Shut.
I
That's
mean,
not your
Hey,
real voice.
Hold on,
There
everyone,
ain't
let
no shot at your
CPCA.
real
No
voice.
one can hear say CPCA.
Shut
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
call
maybe
you
should have
emergency.
invited 8 people
I'll
on
call
your
you
4-person
emergency.
panel.
Emergency.
Wait.
That's his real voice. There's no way.
Hold on,
that's
no,
your real voice.
let him talk. Let her
Shut up.
talk. I'm not sure actually. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, basically, what the difference would be between like someone who's doing a thirst trap, and one who would be doing like a bikini calendar, and I wanted to see where the line would split essentially.
Hold on, just real quick. CPCA, how old are you?
I'm 19.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure you were over 18.
Yeah, I did.
Carry on.
I thought his voice was like
47.
10 octaves deeper, but I confused it with another user.
I'm sorry,
I don't
my
see a
microphone
difference.
sounds
I don't
like
think you can parse out the difference in everyday life. I think that's the problem but there's like something else in there that I kind of want to parse out a little bit. Star, you
Yes?
come off as a secular individual. Is that a correct read?
I'm not a secular individual, actually.
Okay. So when I say secular, what does that mean to you?
Like a very amoral, non-Christian. I'm good with anything goes. I'm not.
Oh no, I'm just wondering.
None of
So
those
are you
things.
somebody who follows a faith?
I am. Yes. Hmm.
So your moral and ethics are built upon your religion, or are they built on other
Yes.
things?
Why is this a lead into if I have this religion? Why am I doing this over here? Is that where this is going? Where
I
is
am
this
not a
going?
member of the Nation of Islam. You are fine. Well,
Hey.
you're fine in that regard.
Nice
Well,
way to
because
put
like
that.
someone mentioned Sharia, and I don't know, we were trying to be yikes, but in America, it's really interesting how I'm speaking specifically in terms of Americans, and maybe like Canadians probably have this problem too, where they're kind of like deeply indoctrinated in like Christian theology and Christian morals and ethics. And then when it finally makes it into public, they don't really kind of understand like why they feel these certain ways. For instance, right? Like who is determining what is too sexual? Who is determining what is too revealing, right? And a lot of times what I've noticed is that there's like this unreflective theological indoctrination that's going on. So what that can look like in practice is like somebody just like saying like, oh, like you ought to like not show X, Y, or Z thing about your body. And then you go, well, why? And it's like, well, just because it's you shouldn't do that. And it's like, well, hang on, like where did you
recenter this about video games? The idea is not
So-
we can't do this or we shouldn't do this. The idea is certain ways of sexualization are sacrificing good writing. They're sacrificing good games. Whereas you can put sex in a game. You can put full-on frontal, total nudity sex in a game, and it can still be very good, like in Baldur's Gate, versus, hey, I'm going to center the main character's ass. It's going to take up a third of the screen just to appeal to gooners. The problem we have with that is not the fact that it's sexy. We're not saying, oh, cover her up, put a burqa on her. It's specifically about the idea that this is so dumb and clearly like only there to be gooner bait, and is not about like anything in the game that makes sense. It is just
But hold
poorly
on, can I ask you a question?
What was
Is
the
it possible
question,
for?
sir?
Well, he made a point, but I'm kind of curious now. Like, is it possible for a sexy lady to be a complex, interesting character?
Yes, absolutely.
It
I'm
is.
not
Who's
against
determining-
Then what's wrong with the sexiness then?
it's not just
Let's say it is
right
gooner
here.
bait, but she's a
Well,
great
well,
character. What's
because
wrong with
the gooner bait is cringe. It makes it more pornographic
Well,
rather
that's
than
a
It
just
might
subjective
I'm
be
thing.
attracted to
cringe,
this
Soy,
character.
but you have to understand that video games are escapism. They're for doing
Speaking of
things and
cringe,
seeing things that you would
turn on your
normally in
camera.
real life.
YouTuber
But
joke.
So
my
if those people
my
want to play
problem.
those games, you should just let them. Like, what the fuck
Well,
is
it's not
the
even
problem?
it's
Why
not
would
even
you have
just
to
to just
complain
let them.
about it?
Because
Trippy,
I don't think to
bitch.
just
I'm
let
just
them is a
gonna-
good argument. But I think that what's
Trippy, you don't
interesting.
do that with crack cocaine. You don't do that with meth.
And he's right. Yeah, he's
I
right.
say if they
Like,
want to
No,
do
but
crack cocaine, let them.
well,
I don't
maybe he
know.
Tuna,
doesn't.
you're now you're
Yeah, but
now
I
you're
don't agree with that
equating
argument.
you're equating you're equating porn to crack cocaine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's
Yes.
just
So what-
silly.
so-
But
Like,
that's a comparison. Yes, that's
It's a
That is
comparison,
a
but
silly
just
comparison.
comparing the two just by comparing pornography to cocaine doesn't mean anything unless you substantiate what good and what bad is. So
His
what
point
is
is that
I've
you would
already-
not accept
Joe?
someone to just do a thing, right? You would challenge them if you think it's bad. That's his point.
what?
Joe,
Oh my
I
God,
know-
I'm about to get mad, but maybe Tuna can
Joe,
help.
Okay. It's
I'm ready.
very You didn't get the part earlier, so I think that you might be missing the most explicit version
Sure.
of the take that I'm on, which is that
Sure.
I think the reason that these very specific depictions of sexuality in games are a problem is not because they are sex, but because they are specifically not sex. They are the de-sexing of sexual stimulus. They are all about masturbating. They are all about the individual experience. They are all about creating a personal sexuality which is not conforming to the outside world, which is bad for you. So in the
That's
same
just
way that
pornography in
crack
general.
cocaine gives you stimulus that makes you want to separate yourself from the world, the same thing is true with this pornography.
And those
I
games
do-
are very much
So-
more
Hold on,
popular
Can
hold
I
on,
in
posit
Japan.
hold
an
on.
idea about
Joe.
safety then?
Please, Joe. Please, Joe. Please. I know there's a lot of people here, and we're getting lost in the sauce here. And I know that Soy Pill asked a question to, I believe, Nova. Could you ask that again, or could you make your point again? Nova was trying to respond.
I got lost as to what Joe was asking me, and
sorry,
then
Joe,
Soy
please.
answered. So, like, what
Yeah.
are you asking me, honey? Are you asking me like who's in control of all the marketing? Obviously, it's up to the media and how far that they can push the limits, because there's nudity clauses and stuff that they can't do in American television. Same thing, not the same thing as that's in the EU. How far that they
Sure.
can take things. So what were you asking me specifically?
Oh no, the affirmative claim that I was going to make is that, especially in the United States, we are deeply entrenched in, you could say, a far right, but I'd say like a general soft right Christian theology, where it's embedded in society so much that we adopt sort of Christian frameworks, whether it be Christian or otherwise, in determining what is good and what is bad. And then what's happening is that's also interacting with how like we consume media and stuff like that. Like, I think in a lot of ways the Christian theists kind of won insofar as they've got so far where they determine, like, we as casuals in society already have an idea of like what is and is not over sexualized, what is sexy, what is attractive, and then even like anything that challenges that is considered just like taboo or something you ought not to do. There's plenty of examples of this, but
it used to be kind of normal to just see somebody attractive in a bikini or whatever, right? As far as marketing goes, if you're a model and you're going to be showcasing makeup or clothes, they are obviously going to pick somebody who fits the idealization of what look they want to present. Okay, so I don't think that. I think we are far more polarizing and more taboo today than obviously we were 20 years ago in the marketing world. You can't disagree that it's not like sex is everywhere. So if Tuna is saying that we're over sexualized, I would agree with that. But I don't really understand what he's complaining about.
well, I mean, that's a
Quite frank,
reflection of society, like, and that's why, like, for me, I'm really interested in like kind of understanding what people believe is good and what people believe is bad. I think a lot of people have like very unthoughtful reflections of what makes something good and what makes something bad, including things like sex. So when there are these sort of conversations of like, well, I just want my game to be good, and it's like, okay, so attractive women can't be in good games. Well, it's not that, and it's like,
No one
okay, well
said
then what
that.
is good?
Right.
And
So
I think
wait,
what
Joe,
tends to
can
happen
I
is
bring
for
this up
some
again?
people in
'Cause
their
maybe I think you
argumentation,
missed this, Joe, because you weren't at the beginning of the conversation. But the reason I brought up Quiet from Metal Gear Solid as an example was not because she's attractive and attractive women in games are bad, but because the point of her character in that game is to be pornographically attractive. It's like, hey, she's almost naked. She walks around with a bikini where she's just barely covering her nipples. When she's in the helicopter with you, she's presenting her ass to you and shaking it around just for no really good reason in the game other than Kojima wanted a hot character to be in the game that he wants girls to cosplay as, right? And when I'm
That's
playing
not
that
fair.
game,
Quiet's a little more
regardless of
complex
how
than
much I
that.
enjoy the story, regardless of how much I enjoy the mechanics, regardless of any of that, that takes me out of the game because I realize I'm not playing a game right
Takes
now where I'm
you out of
involved
the
in the
game.
story.
That
I'm
is
aware that
exactly
people
my
can be
question
invested
is.
in it. This is all subjective, obviously. I'm saying this is
No,
gooner stuff
it's
that ruins my suspension of disbelief in this world. So that's my problem with it. I
so.
think it
Hold
should be
on,
better
I'm
integrated if you're going to put hot people in.
okay. So all right, so I really need you to parse this out, Soy, because you keep
Sure.
dodging this question. What
I don't think
makes
dodge
a
is good.
you are, but let's just ask the question plainly.
Mhm.
In your eyes, what makes a game good?
just anything. I mean, the gameplay
What makes
mechanics,
a
the
game
story,
good?
whether
So
or
the-
not like it has why is Tuna having an aneurysm because I said that? Like this is kind of irrelevant, right?
No,
Why
it's
are you
not.
He's trying to reel you in like
Why
a
are you
fish.
hanging yourself? Okay, look,
Oh,
What
no,
makes
never
a
mind.
good game
I-
Yeah, he's over there
good?
This
whipping
is
for
the
some
stupidest
reason.
question I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. What
Yeah,
makes
why
a
not?
game
It's-
good?
Yes,
You
what makes a
abstract
game
into
good?
level of
Well,
dribble.
If it's fun and
And
it
he
hits
can't
like
To be
explain
fair,
why it's
yeah.
not
And
a
if he
good
can't
question either.
Tuna, can I
If
just
you
add
can't
this
ex-
to
So
like-
broad.
But I could
It's
talk
It's
about
not
this
broad.
for
Tuna's right,
hours.
though.
It is
It's
You- you do
absolutely
broad.
not
I could
broad.
talk about
So
this for
when you
hours.
say good, do you mean quality or morally good, right? Those are two different things, right?
I'm
No,
talking
he's talking about quality.
obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so
Yeah,
but
I'm
that's a
talking
little
about
bit
the
more
quality of the
complex than that, though, right? Because we could talk about Gold and Sun, Pokemon Silver, like we could do that, but it's like, do we
I'm just
agree on the
asking-
actual
holy
objective
f-
standards?
Joe, my
But-
Hey,
answer
You
Joe,
is-
can,
What
but the question
makes a
the question
game
is
good?
too complex. We literally
It's
have
not
review
too
channels of
complex.
games
Hey,
where they
Joe,
talk
Joe,
about
Joe,
games for
Joe,
hours. We
Joe,
can't just say
incredibly
what makes it good.
He can
Alright,
just
well,
answer it.
Joe,
I
help
promise
here.
you.
This is
He
literally
can just
help.
answer it. He can just
I
answer
go
it
back
for
to
himself.
answer it, but I could talk about this for hours. What do you think makes a game good in 20
He's
words? or
right.
less?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Do you like action
would soy
games?
on
Do
this
you
one.
like driving
Okay, so
games?
what makes a game good
Yeah.
for you? It's
Right. I
Just
like
you can just
complain
answer
is
it.
what I
like
wanna
characters,
know.
I like
You can just
writing,
answer
I
it.
like
It's-
sound design. I like all sorts of things in games, especially if the core gameplay is fun and there can be hot people in that game and it can still be
I'm
amazing.
not talking about hot people. We're just talking about games
Well,
first.
that's what
We'll
the
get
panel's
to that in a
about.
second.
That's why it's a very weird
Yes, there's two
Kinda.
parts to this question. That's why I'm asking this one
question.
first.
Parts to your camera.
God damn. I set
that
this
is actually
up.
true too.
Joe,
I set this
Can I
up
get
frantic.
an example.
No,
An
wait,
example.
Tuna. Let the man ask his two
Let me
questions.
cook.
Let him ask his
Goddamn.
two. Let him ask
We'll
his
get
two
to. I want
questions
to
so
get
that they
Trippy
can be
in here
over.
next. I want to
Agreed.
get
This is the health
Trippy in here
inspector,
next.
bro. Your
Hold
kitchen's
on.
full of rats.
Hold on, just real quick. If you want to kick, hold on. If you want to kick people, you can, but it's gonna be $20 minimum. So that's $10 more.
Wow,
per
you know,
suit.
Sarah only charges
Let the
$5.
man
Damn,
talk.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
gonna
a
get us
little
all
more
cooked out?
high class, so you know.
I'm
Okay.
feeding my belly too. I'm a poke 'em. Poke. Poke.
Jeez.
Joe, finish your question, and then we'll go.
Is your confliction this? When a game conflicts with my moral framework on what is good and just for society, are you against that in games?
No, absolutely not. And my moral framework doesn't say putting a over-sexualized character in is bad morally. I don't even think it's bad morally. I don't think porn is immoral. I think it's detracting from what would otherwise be a better game, a more quality game that has a more consistent tone that is not injecting porn in places it doesn't need to
So when games present moral frameworks and ideas that you are against, it doesn't necessarily affect the game per se, but it affects your desire to play it. Is that a correct assessment of
be.
your
Right.
judgment?
And just to give an
Holy
example,
shit.
make sure this is
Totally
absolutely
moral
Goddamn.
framework.
just to give it an
A
example of
jiggling
this. I'm not
ass is a
sure-
moral framework to Joe. I'm just saying.
You know, let me
No.
get
It's not. It's
No.
not.
No,
what
Joe.
exactly is the
this is-
complaint? Is what
Wait,
I
let
want
me-
to
let
know.
me-
Who's
let me
judging?
try it. Let me try to
Orwellian
steelman this.
discussion.
Okay.
Or can I just give an example
Joe.
to make this like super clear?
No, it's cool.
Go-
I'm sure. Go for it. Go for
Really
it.
Go ahead, but then I'm gonna follow it up with my own
I'm a game
example.
Sure.
developer. I'm making a game about killing demons, right? And this is, by the way, I'm going to use like a Bayonetta adjacent analogy, right? But this isn't exactly. It's okay. This character is going to go in and kill demons. It's a story about saving the world from this an oncoming demon incursion, right? It's like, okay, that is a world that I can inject myself in and enjoy. And then at the very end, he says, and you know what? The main mechanic of this game is whenever you use your powers, your character gets more undressed. She gets more naked the more powerful you are. As a player of that game, I would say, no, this isn't immoral. This isn't like a sin against God, but it's very out of place. It's very fucking weird. It makes me feel uncomfortable that I'm playing this game that should be an enjoyable game about killing demons. And now I'm like, okay, but there's this like pornographic element to it. Like, what the fuck? This is clearly just meant to market to people who are horny for the main character. I think that sucks. I think it's not in place. For
I
what
think
the
that is a
story
projection you're casting onto the game.
You're projecting a moral. You're
particularly
casting a
with
moral
Bayonetta
judgment,
as well.
and then
No, no,
acting
no,
as
no,
a
no,
moral.
wait, hold on,
Hold on, I'm gonna
wait,
have we're gonna have to
no,
order in this court. Order in this
reality
court.
is-
Order in
I-
hold on,
I-
everyone,
I-
shut up.
Everyone isn't talking,
I will.
please.
Okay, I'm
Let
gonna
the
mute
woman
everyone.
speak.
Reality is quite
I'm gonna mute
subjective.
everyone until they stop talking. Okay, everyone, stop. We're gonna go one at a time. I know you all want to get in here, but my God, we need order in this court so we can have an actual conversation. I want to give it to Icebeans, but I know Trippy's been trying to get in, and I want to give it to Trippy exactly after Icebeans. So after Icebeans go, then we're gonna give it straight to Trippy, and then we're gonna give it to Cersei, and that's the order we're gonna go in. Go ahead, please.
Okay. basically, what Soy Pill is like, what he has a problem with is the exact same problem that I have with the Wilhelm scream. I know it's an iconic piece of fucking history or whatever, but every single time I hear it in a movie, it just takes me out of whatever zone I was in, and it makes me think, okay, oh, there was a Wilhelm scream. Didn't need to be used. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit that it's iconic, right?
Now you're thinking that you're watching a movie, right? It's like, wait a minute, this is actually kind of hurt the integrity of this film because now my suspension of disbelief is ruined. I just recognized a voice clip from a 1920s Western.
So basically, you want to protect your immersion, is what the two of you are saying. You want to protect your immersion.
It's not an immersion because here's where I disagree. Because I disagree with Soy Pill in the sense that, like, for me, the Wilhelm scream, I bitch and moan about it in the moment, but then I move on, right? I'm not actually going to boycott the fucking movie because they use it. I'm probably going to give the movie more shit if I hear more than one Wilhelm scream.
At all times for the entirety of the game.
I mean, I just think, I'm pro Tiddy in the sense that, like, for me, the Wilhelm scream, if it got bad enough or if it was just like an issue that I actually cared about, I would just not watch that movie, right?
Right, but now
for me, it's more like,
analogy, and I'm going to say, if the Wilhelm scream plays every other voice line in the movie, it's probably dog shit. And if that movie made $500 million at the box office, I'm going to try to get as many people as I can to say this is bad, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to make sure we never make anything like it again.
Yeah, but here's my problem.
Hold on. Everyone, before everyone jumps in, I did give the mic to Trippy. Trippy's got to get a chance to speak. Go ahead, Trippy.
Oh. What are we talking about?
Okay, if you're just here for eye candy, we're gonna move you because you're not as eye candy as some of the other.
I'm just messing around. Look, if there's a sexualized character in a video game, it's just like the arguments back in the day about comic book characters and women shouldn't be so scantily clad in comic books. Dude, there are literally animes that are based on women getting stronger as they lose clothing. Like, come on. This is more of a Japanese thing than an American thing in that same exact fashion that you're talking about.
I'm glad you got this guy on who's just like 17 steps behind in the conversation from Sarah's panel. This is so much more fun now.
Anyways, you never have a fucking argument to make other than something that's
problem.
Fucking...
We're on the sixth cock.
Okay, so
Soy likes to argue.
I don't think you're one to talk about cocks right now. Okay.
Soy likes to argue the hypotheticals all the time, but if you actually bring reality to the guy, he has no idea what to say except for "you're stupid." You're stupid. I know how you argue.
Really, like a anthropological phenomenon of like.
You could have said that in 4 words instead of 27.
I mean, like I kind of get what you were saying, right? Where there's certain like aspects of media that subvert your immersion within it. Sometimes that immersion can be a good thing. Like that like pulling out of that immersive experience, that can be effective. But the difference that I'm trying to understand is that it sounds like Soy Pill is making sort of moral claims around these things without fully standing,
without fully biting the bullet, basically.
Yeah, biting the bullet, saying like
he is. You have to be fair to what he's saying. It's not immoral what he's saying. He's saying the quality or the integrity of the product is damaged when he sees these sexualized elements.
That's a moral claim. Like he's saying
it's
that
not a moral claim.
This it is.
It's a personal preference, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about personal preference.
To be clear, Gooner's the one making the moral
argument. Soy, I'll just ask you this way.
Before you even ask the question, because I'm pretty sure I understand that where the disconnect is. If you go on Steam right now and you look at the top sellers, and there's all these literal porn games, right? Like literal porn games where the goal is to have sex. I don't think this is immoral. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't want to ban it. I don't think that we should stop making those. I just think that I don't want the elements of those games that are pornographic to start bleeding into games where it doesn't really make sense to be there. I think those are worse games because they're not consistent. It has nothing to do with morality.
So if the developers make the argument that the sex is in there for particular purposes and can substantiate that, you will have no problem with it?
There could be more ambiguous ways where it might fit into the story, yes.
Okay, actually,
what happens if you disagree with the developer's presentation of why it's in there?
then this is
Doesn't
the whole
matter.
debate, right? Like,
It does matter.
No,
it
no,
doesn't
it
matter.
actually.
It does matter, right? I
As a
say
can
that's
consumer,
Stellar
he can
Blade
disagree with
call
that
this a
all the
gooner
time.
game.
Yeah.
Many people might not call it that, but you clearly see this when people get frustrated when they cover up the like very obvious like cleavage shots that don't really make sense to have on or to wear, but are there to make an overly sexualized character. And it's just like, yeah, like people are doing this for this reason. And sometimes it's Kojima who comes out and says, I just really like putting a hot naked woman in my game. Like, sure, there's going to be disagreements, but that's the entire point of all media. You can disagree with the author's intent. We can disagree on what it really means. We can disagree on why people are buying it. That's the whole point of the conversation. Like what happens? Like, I'm not asking to live in a world where only things that I like exist. I'm just pushing back on these gooner games. But I'm like, I think these suck.
So but you're asking,
well,
you're
okay,
asking
real quick,
for people,
can I ask-
however, to collectively go
Soy,
against.
are you asking-
Hold on. He said he missed the part about that. I don't want him to run away from that. You want people to protest these things. You want people to protest these projects.
I'm just asking people to recognize what they're doing.
No,
Look,
but you made the affirmative. They ought to avoid.
A bunch of people went and bought Stellar Blade because they like the super over sexualization, right? I'm not saying that people shouldn't be able to do that. I'm not saying it's bad necessarily that there's a market for that. I'm saying I wish that we had more money put into games that weren't stupid like that. In the same way that I think it sucks that
you guys are circling the drain, and we're going to move to a different person.
I just want more people to have better taste.
Yeah,
that's what I'm arguing.
He doesn't want to engage with that. That's fine. We can move on.
What am I not engaging with?
Well, he is engaging with. He just doesn't agree.
Well, no.
We're going to circle again. Please. Oh my God, no.
I'm not circling. I'm just closing it out. You don't understand. You don't understand what I'm saying. You clearly don't understand what I'm saying based on how I'm projecting it.
I'm not running. Go ahead.
This is
What the fuck did you just say?
I promise I'm trying. I'm not running, so please try one more time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna try anymore. I'm not trying anymore.
Hey, Wick, you got super chats, honey. You got.
I'm going to get them. I promise. I'm trying to get them. Okay. Yeah. But
he's
thank
trying
you.
to host the show, darling.
I know.
Soy Pill, real quick. Do you now that you've heard?
Hold on.
Now that you've heard.
Icebeans, please. Icebeans, please. I do got to make a little money. So we are going to get there, and then I'm going to get more people.
Look, I can hear you guys. I'll be right
and
back.
Then we're going to try not to circle the drain too much here, right? So $5 from Zim Eats Waffles to say, would the sex scene in Conker's Bad Hair Day between the sunflower and King Bee be considered porn? I've never played that game in my life.
I played the hell out of that game as a kid. It was on N64. It's a very comedic sex scene where they have the bee and the flower like go off screen, and then you hear her reacting and him reacting, and then they go back to it. So it's like I wouldn't really say that it's like overly done or anything like that. It's not like not in your face, but you know what's going on as long as you're an adult.
You can take it out of the game, and the game doesn't change. So remove it.
Wait, the leaves of I'm just saying the petals or whatever you call it, the fucking leaves on the stem. It is worth noting that they are tits and that you do use them as a trampoline. Like
that's why it's R-rated.
It's very similar to Wick taking his shirt off in that it is sex for a joke.
Sex for entertainment.
Okay.
$10. Oh my God, that was
male
you don't
bodies
have to put the man down like that. Holy
Hold on.
shit.
I got more. $2 from Testicle Johnson to say boobs out for Palestine. Thank you for the $2.
Now, what you could do here is you could blow Star up so she's the full camera.
Oh God!
That's why you don't get the Sarah regulars on your show, Wick.
Look,
I'm
I'm just
gonna boycott Wick panels if
so
this is how
if
it
you want
keeps
to
going,
talk
dude.
shit, dude, you can come on my show and talk shit.
I will never go.
Enough! All of you shut up.
Are those guys? I'm just very curious.
I'll hold on. No talking. No talking while I finish these super chats. Good. Go. $10 from In Pursuit of Knowledge. $10 to kick Joe and bring me in. No, we don't do that unless you pay me $20. And then $10 from Zemmy's Wassels. Did Witcher 3 win Game of the Year?
Can I respond to that because that was directly targeted towards me? Or are we just gonna let that fly?
What response do you have to kick him?
To be fair.
And what response do you have?
This man, that account has had a hate boner for me for at least 3 years. He knows personal information about my life that he brings up in casual conversation. If you see that account in Pursuit of Knowledge, you got to avoid him. Like this is a call of action to people who are within streamer communities. That man is clearly not well. He donated $10 to kick me, but he's also berated me in multiple Discords, just me directly, and talks about me behind my back. And there's VODs and clips of him doing it. It's really, really bizarre.
Okay.
So if you engage with that person, please just avoid him.
Okay, I'm not bringing all that in here. $10 from Zims Eats Waffles to say, did Witcher 3 win Game of the Year because of the sex scenes, or did it win Game of the Year because of the story?
Won Game of the Year because of the gameplay, probably. The story was also very good, and the sex scenes in that game, to my remembrance, I haven't played it in a while, were pretty good. Like, they made sense in the game. It wasn't like, yes, like, go fuck, you fucking gooner. It was very much like hey, like, you've now romanced Cersei enough to sleep with her and stuff like that, but I could be misremembering.
Yeah,
From the
that
guy
makes
who
sense. Yeah.
wants to make the little snide remarks and call people stupid, but is too afraid to actually talk.
Okay. I do want to stick
So-
on to the point and not have this turn into this little nippy back and forth. A little bit's fun, a little bit's good, but I do want to
Yeah, a little bit's fun. I'm not
going
gonna,
to
like,
actual topic
Target the guy.
of
Yeah.
the day. Okay.
Sounds like some drama there.
Yeah, there is
No,
some
not
drama
Okay.
there,
really.
but we're going to move over the drama and we're going to give.
Can I go back to okay, real quick, like Soy Pill earlier somebody explained why the was it a sniper lady who could breathe through her
Quiet
skin?
can
Yes, that's
she
Quiet.
used like
Okay.
photosynthesis through her skin, and that's why she needs to remain
Okay.
naked.
Okay, hold on.
Well, she's
So
not-
somebody
she's only
in one of
mostly.
the super chats, somebody like said that it's basically like one of the given explanations. It's cool because she doesn't have to breathe, and so I guess it makes it easier for her to be a sniper. Does that change your opinion on that at all?
No,
or
because it's so obviously made up after the fact to justify why he has the naked character in it, right? Like, if I put a
Okay,
naked
so-
Made
character
up
in
after the
instead,
fact. How,
But,
what's
but
your
my
proof of that?
question is,
well, hold on,
Because
wait. I have a
know
follow up.
it's
I have a
like-
follow up.
You guys all try to-
I
hold on,
think-
look,
yeah.
I'm going to
I
say
have a
this.
follow-up.
Hold on, all of you, shut
Yeah.
up. My God, if you can't behave, I will just kick you off the panel. I have opened this up because someone canceled last minute, and so we loosened it up a little bit. Maybe I won't do that in the future if this is going to keep going like this, right? We got to keep it a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
Formatted, if you will. So please,
You
let
like
people-
this? Stop.
Look, there is time and a place. There's a time and a place, right?
Okay.
I want to hear
so,
Ice Out.
Yeah,
So
I do
basically,
too.
basically,
Ice
like,
Out.
so you're saying it like it to you. It obviously sounds like it's a it's a ad hoc justification. Okay, and I don't know anything about this character, but I would be inclined to agree. I think that what Joe was maybe kind of hinting at was that you're saying that now, and I'm agreeing with you. But there could be other things where you think that the sexualization is too far,
Right, it
where
could be
other people might
subjective.
just see it. Well, yeah, so I guess how do you account for that kind of thing? If you're saying, like, I mean, I understand. Are you just saying that, like,
look, I could be
it's
wrong
just your
in some of
opinion,
these
man?
assessments. It is just my opinion. Although I do base that opinion off of like watching lots of different types of media and seeing how people are portrayed sexually in different ways. And certain ones, it's like, okay, this makes sense in the story. This looks like it has writer's intent. Or I've literally watched like the writers at the table discuss why they made a character a certain way versus what is very clearly, obviously, like a goon thing. Like, if you look at like this
Sure.
goes so back to like the original Metroid game, right? They didn't make her a woman because it was like, we needed a strong female character. The character doesn't talk, right? The reason they made her a woman is because they thought it would be a good reward for you to beat the game quickly and then see a naked person in a bikini at the end. Because it was like, isn't this cool? Look at this naked person, right?
You can't
Okay, but
simultaneously
I guess
be
my-
naked and in a bikini, though.
You understand the point, buddy. Come on.
Okay,
well,
my
his point was,
No,
I
your
guess
point
my
was
my
somewhat sexualized to some degree, I guess.
So
but-
sort of my conclusion to that, though, is that, like, I do see what people are talking about when they say that you are bringing a morality into it, because it isn't just that it is your opinion that you avoid these games. You're actively saying, okay, I would like to here's what society should kind of take forward, moderate
If I had to
itself,
choose
which is
between
fine.
a
I
rotten
agree.
apple, and a tasty apple, and I say the tasty apple is better. Is it a moral choice that I'm like,
No,
I
but
like this
no,
one
no,
'cause
no,
it
no.
tastes
It's
Yeah, I
not
don't
a
understand why you
it's not
guys
a
keep doing this to
dichotomy like
him.
this. No, it is not a
Well, it
it's
is.
not it's not a
It's
choice between
clearly
a hold on,
market
it is not
versus
a choice.
consumer.
No, no,
type
no,
of
no. It's not a
It is
choice
argument.
between a
like this.
it's not a choice
Because what
between a
I'm
rock and
saying is
apple.
not it's bad that people are naked. I'm not saying it's bad that people sexualize women. I have not said any of those things tonight. What I'm saying is when it is out of place, when it is clearly the intent is an afterthought, an injection, a point to appeal to a young male audience in a way that really does not fit into the story, yeah, I think that's worse. And that
Okay.
No,
becomes
but
the rotten apple.
but
Okay,
you
we're-
don't. But here's the thing. But here's the thing is that like
Real quick,
what
Icebeans,
you
we gotta move
say
on to
is
other
like
people.
yeah, okay, and I'll let go of this point. But basically, my point is that what you see as excessive or what you see as out of place, not everyone is going to agree on that. That's my
I
point.
agree. Not everyone. No one's going to agree on everything. It's
So
irrelevant.
but you are making a moral
Can I-
standard. You're setting a moral standard.
Yeah,
That's my
my
point.
point.
Can I try something?
We're gonna give it to Tuna, then we're gonna give it to Xerxes, then we're gonna give it
Take it away.
to Emergency. Okay,
Okay.
that's the order we're gonna go in. Go ahead.
As the more moralistic, I guess, or like the more leaning on the moral argument, although I wouldn't even describe it as moral because ethical, whatever. The whole point of like this idea that there's a line in the sand and there are divisions only comes into play when people are talking about changing a methodology of what goes on and doesn't go on a platform. None of us on this side of the argument, from what I can tell, are talking about limiting or banning sexual content or pornography. My primary argument is that this has an effect on people, and the effect is one that reinforces itself. It's an effect that is very fun, very pleasant, obviously. That's why it spreads. And I'm thinking of this in terms of like, I do not think that it is good to have a personal sexuality that does not conform to your culture, because then you are not going to be able to connect to people with your sexuality. If the culture you're inside of is very sexual, then obviously the sexuality you're allowed, or I shouldn't just say sexual, is very public or is very kinky, very extreme, then you should meet that. I don't want people to just like be hyper Protestant or some weird shit. I'm saying that when somebody plays a gooner game, the effect is that they are facilitating the development of a personal sexuality that is private, that often they're embarrassed about, and if they're not embarrassed about, someone will shame them for, which will cause a division between them and the rest of their culture. The same thing is true when somebody has the opposite, somebody has a hyper conservative affect inside of a culture that's more liberal. You're going to have to bear that brunt on your own shoulders. And most people are not willing to do that. And they need to understand where that's coming from. Well, how are they becoming sexually radicalized? And it is by stuff like this. I mean, we had the last guy on, Lore. Lore said
Stuff like what again? When you said
Lore.
stuff, you're speaking to.
Come again?
When you said stuff like, you said stuff like X, Y.
All right.
What's the stuff here again?
I don't know the sentence, but I can point to the examples I'm about to get to, which is
Okay.
Lore, the person who was on the panel just a bit ago, said he thinks that 3D humans are gross. This is a person who is writing the erotica, right? So what are we developing in a culture where people think that actual physical IRL intimacy is gross, and Star Nova has her tits out and says that she's not a sex worker?
To be clear, this is the
You
moral
can
argument.
have your
not
titties out
mine.
and not be a sex worker.
No,
Not in America.
Tuna is making
My
a
God,
moral
this guy likes to
argument.
shame
I'm just
me a
saying
lot,
that
doesn't he?
I'm just saying that like Soy Pill, you are bringing you're not just saying this is good for me, you're also trying to put it out onto other people. Or you're trying to say that, hey, this shouldn't be a trend where we like go down this level of like Gooner
If you're
games.
saying
Can I
that
clear this
morality
up? Because I
is,
don't
prefer
think you guys
people
understand
to have
this.
good, better taste that more aligns with mine, then I guess that's morality, but that's not what I would call when I think of
But
like.
it is.
No,
it's
I'm not
it's
saying that. I'm not
though.
saying that
you know,
it's.
like-
I'm not saying it's. No, I'm not saying that it's
This
like
morality
you're not saying
argument-
you're being puritanical or anything.
We have made
I'm
it
just saying that like.
But hold
20
on, team.
times.
Listen, can you stop for a second? It seems like you don't get this, right? From his point of view, this is a quality critique of his immersion or his enjoyment of the product, right? That's all he's saying. He's saying that I don't like. Even just think about like The Last Jedi. Let's say you don't like the character Holdo. You think that she's goofy, whatever, stupid. He's saying I would want less characters like that. Like, just for example, just to understand. He's not saying that
Yeah.
it's wrong to have a character like that. He's saying he doesn't like it and he wishes to encourage other people to follow. It's not a moral thing. It's a quality
That is
thing.
No, but
absolutely a moral claim.
no.
No,
Okay,
it's
but
not
here's
moral, right?
a
For example, let me give you
Here-
another example. One more example. One
yeah.
more example, right?
Oh my God.
If I want more games like Kingdom Hearts 2 instead of Dark Souls 2, that's not a moral thing. I'm
No,
not
of
saying
course
Kingdom
not.
Hearts 2 is
No,
morally
but-
good. I'm
but-
saying
Of course
the
not.
product is enjoyable and the gameplay is superior to Dark Souls 2. That's what he's saying.
Okay,
So you have to
but
argue the
there's-
quality.
but
not
I
here's
the
just
there's-
want to
morality.
ramp. I just kind of
there's-
want to see where Soy's at on this. Maybe this can parse this out.
That was a good statement on
Soy,
me, real quick. Saying
Soy, do you think
No, I got you.
rape? Soy, do you think that rape is an immoral action?
yes, hot take.
Okay, great. You believe that rape is an immoral action. Is that correct?
The volcano
Yes.
take right there.
If a video game
need a fan.
depicts a rape, is that an immoral action?
No,
There it is. Explain it.
but if
Okay.
if a movie or a video game has a immoral action in it, is the movie immoral? Of course not. Like I can watch a
Why?
movie about the Holocaust and not think the Holocaust is bad, or oops,
Oh,
not think the
whoa,
movie
whoa,
is
whoa,
bad. Sorry, I
whoa,
masked
whoa,
up
whoa.
everyone.
Cliff and Chip it, gang. Cliff and
It's too
Chip
easy.
it.
It's way
you're
too easy. It's way too
But
easy.
yeah, no, like, is that not clear that like if the media portrays a bad thing, the media itself isn't bad unless it's advocating for it, right? Like if the game was
Yeah.
like go rape people, I'd be like, yeah, this game's bad. But if the game's like, hey, your character gets raped, this is part of the story, it makes sense in the story. For example, people call
How
out
does
rape
it
scenes
make?
in-
How? So walk me
Joe,
through
does
that.
it
How
make
does something?
sense? Because it's
How
a
does
real
something
thing
make
that happens to
sense?
real people. It can shape their
I mean, it
character. It can
happens,
maybe a
right?
trauma they have to deal with.
Okay.
This is a
Here's what's
reality
funny.
that people deal with
Okay.
every day, and the idea that we can never have rape in media because it's bad is insane. Because it
I
happens.
never said that. I'm just trying to see where you
used to be
stand.
getting on my case for saying that rape in media is not immoral, which of course it isn't inherently immoral.
Right, but
Yeah,
I'm trying
I mean,
to
it
see the
happens all the
content.
time.
I'm trying to interrogate the content as to why you hold that position. That's all. That's it.
The content, yeah, I hold the position because the immorality would be encouraging a bad action that hurts someone, not
So,
portraying a bad action.
I mean,
so it's only immoral if the game encourages the immoral action.
It's not
I
the
guess
only.
I don't like
it's
to
not
say
the
the
only
absolute
case.
like that, but that sounds kind of like what I'm saying. Yeah.
There are okay, Joe. How
what's
many?
the point, though?
I make a movie and it's an exploitation film where I have
Yes.
500 black men go out into the streets and rape white women.
What is it?
I believe
It'll
that
be an
exploitation
immoral-
film. I
immoral-
believe that exploitation films are morally wrong, and I want that outlawed in my society, socially,
Okay.
politically,
So
and economically.
you know that obviously depictions of rape
Mhm.
can be immoral.
I would not. I would
Mhm.
outlaw rape in films.
Why?
That's my
Really?
stance.
Why?
Because I believe it's an
Happen.
immoral action, and I
Wow.
don't
No.
want immoral actions
Would
in
you,
my
would
film.
you
Hold
outlaw
on.
murder in
Would
your
you be all
film?
killing
Have
on
you?
film?
Has
Hold
this
on.
man
Everyone wants to
watched
talk,
a
but
red-
no one's going to talk except for me right now, please. Joe, would
Yeah,
you outlaw murder in movies? and
Yes.
Games. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
you're
okay.
no.
So you
no.
would outlaw any immoral depiction.
Joe.
You would say.
I do not agree. I do not agree with content that is trying to, especially games. We're talking about games, right? I do not want games immersing people into those experiences because
Fucking
I
valid-
believe
valid-
that the
You're
cultural
gonna have money to
consequences.
Bad games.
Let me
is my
ISO.
moral.
Can I
stance.
ISO?
You wanna
Joe.
moral-
Let him finish.
limit
Let
your
him finish.
entire
Let him finish.
morality.
Let him finish. Let him
Let me-
finish. Let him
let me
finish.
argue with this
God,
one.
this is so dumb.
Let him finish.
Is it?
Yeah,
Let,
Oh, so like,
Yeah.
so that
I think it
that's
is
dumb.
foolish. I'll
but
tell you
what
why.
do
I can tell you.
Why
I
is
can
it?
tell you
Why
why
is
it's
it
foolish.
foolish? Why is it
I'll tell you
foolish?
why. So number
So
one.
what's my
video
position?
games-
Rearticulate my position.
if
So
I
you know what I'm
understand your
saying.
position, to be fair, right now, if I understand your position, you were saying that it is immoral and you would outlaw any immoral depiction of any violent act. I would say. So we use murder and we have rape. Would that be the case? Could we also have like robbery? Armed robbery. Would that also? Is it any depiction of anything? So just rape is covered in the umbrella.
Violence.
Emulations. So what I'm speaking to, by the way, is emulations, right? The idea of
Okay.
extreme.
So a
suffering.
character acting in the act itself, right? So the character performing said rape.
I
you would outlaw.
consider certain actions extreme suffering. I do not think it's
Mhm.
healthy for a culture or a society to participate in games that engage with extreme suffering. consumed specifically as entertainment as its
The
purpose.
stream is
Joe?
extreme.
So here's why I
suffering.
Are
disagree.
you going to get rid of Brothers in the Hood?
More than that, right? The
Are you
issue
gonna
that I
take that off the
have
shelf?
is that well, hold on, because I think this is
No,
interesting
the
In
movie.
conversation.
particular
You're gonna remove
games.
House MD.
He's talking about games. So games are interesting as an art form because they are immersive, and that's the core of what he's saying. And the reason
He
why I
said movies,
disagree
too.
with these depictions, he did say movies, but he did just clarify the games, right? Now the reason why I think that this is a wee bit silly is because video games offer, because of their immersion, one of the best ways to convey a message and a story to the audience that they are participating in. So for example, let's just use God of War on the top of my head, right? So the original trilogy has Kratos being an absolute horrendous human being, and in fact the third game is particularly gory. So we go into this awful depiction of Kratos, and then we have the fourth game where Kratos, as a story arc, has to battle his older self. That's what Baldur is, if you guys are familiar with the story. Baldur is more or less the mirror image to how Kratos used to be, right? Because of all of the awful things Kratos did and the immersion as a player, you also get to immerse yourself in the redemption arc and the reflection of how awful this is. If anything, it can help you understand regret and mercy more because you are the individual who is participating in the actions instead of someone who's just on the outside looking at it or hearing about it. So I don't agree
What
immersion is bad. I think immersion is great. And you
What-
immerse yourself in a protected environment that is the video game. Now, are all video games like this? Obviously not, but God of War is an example off the top of my head.
The risk that I see is you turn these things into potential normalization of those extreme acts. So
Those are
much
already
so.
normal, Joe.
They're
Rape
already
and
normal.
murder
Yeah,
have
those
been
are already
tried.
normal.
I was very close to
Okay.
talking about a couple of countries over in the east.
And
No, but now
Don't
what are you
worry.
saying,
Them.
Joe?
They're
What are you
portraying them
saying? Are
as
you,
bad.
no,
Oh,
the
shit.
reason that the reason people are saying that it's normal is because now you have to not only just explain why your rationale is the way it is, but you have to like answer how are we going to put the cat back in the box. You can't.
Yes.
Like I
can.
remember
I
one of the
absolutely
first
can.
times I
You
I remember
absolutely can do
GTA
these
whatever
things.
where you chainsaw hookers and then pick up their money. Like I did
Mhm.
that as a kid.
Right.
Joe, to put it in
because
perspective, the way that we did
Holy
sex in
shit.
this country for a while was
So
we
like
just didn't talk
you
about
just
it.
have to
Parents wouldn't talk
explain.
about it with their kids, and yet
I'm
everyone's having sex, right? And when you allow people to
trying so
experience
hard.
like sexual like aggression, like these very bad, horrible, traumatic situations, what you can do is expose people to the idea of them, how to deal with them, how to process them with them, how to avoid them. But if you just don't portray it at all, no one knows about it, period. These education
Why
is
does
like
a
completely
game
dog
have
shit
that
about it.
responsibility?
Well, it
It's
doesn't have
everything
No,
in
it's not
culture.
about
If
it
you're only
being a
ability.
restricting
game.
It
games,
has
like
the ability.
You
It
just
can
talked
do
less
that.
about how
bad, but
he just
Hold-
talked
hold
about
up,
how the
hold
game
up.
games are taking this
Can I jump in here?
responsibility of making these cultural, moral,
part
and
of the
ethical
media.
arguments.
It's not just games.
Can I hop
So-
in a
Yeah,
little
it'd
bit
be
here?
stories.
Go
and
ahead,
things.
Trippy. You're not
God
getting
damn.
it.
Let's
You
get
just have to
Trippy in a
go
little
in
bit.
there.
Trippy, go
You just
ahead,
have to
please.
get in
All
there.
right. I believe what Soy is saying is like these games can have very good storylines. They can teach lessons. They can show people going through things and
Well, I'm the one that
developing as
said
a
it.
character as the game goes on, right, Soy?
Sure,
I
you
understand
can
that. Thank you,
do
Trippy.
I
those
would think that he's
things.
giving it that fairness, but you also
You can
show.
do those
Listen,
things.
but
It's so
people
simple.
go through traumas, though. You've gone through trauma.
Yes.
I have. And we've
Yes.
grown and learned and
Yeah.
become ourselves through that trauma.
And we don't need games to do that work
But video
for
games are a
us.
visual
What?
medium. Video games are a visual medium, just like
Okay.
movies.
Yeah.
Just like movies.
So
Just like
I
books.
really don't think you
And
quite
books,
understand this, but that's cool. That's cool. It's why I just kind of threw it out
Video
there.
games aren't just for children.
Well, they very
Video
clearly
games are
aren't just for
made by
children at
adults
this point.
for adults, as
What's
well as
the
made by
what
adults
is
for
the
kids.
function? What is the purpose of a game?
It's
the
for
game
you to
is
have an
for-
experience.
An experience? Games are just about
like watching a movie.
experiences.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the
No,
game.
there's-
And to have fun.
Entertainment
There's,
to
like,
convey
so
a
many
message.
different-
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
It's too
versatile medium. What's your point?
Are and games at their core are entertainment. Their
Just like a
goal
movie.
and objective is to entertain people. The thing that I'm trying to outline as a risk is that a medium designed for entertainment that is trying to drive profit as something that Starnova admitted outright that these developers are only trying to drive profit and these type of things. It seems a little dicey to
What
be
about movies?
engaging
What
with
about TV
extreme.
shows? What about any other form of media that is entertainment that is going to be driven by profit? Should those things not be able to portray real life situations that are bad?
There
I
has
think they
to
should.
be a
It's a
level
yes.
of, you know,
Isn't that why they
There
make genres?
that has to be
Genres?
applied to real
Should
life.
Breaking Bad have been a story
it
about a
has
man trying to pay his
Star
bills by
Star
working
Star
two
Nova.
jobs?
Star, was that you that said that?
Making
Is
meth?
that you that said
Like,
that, Star?
I
Yeah,
said something about genres. That's why they have
what's the?
genres, right?
This is
Different
why we have
genres.
genres. Like, I'm not denying. I've
okay.
never denied that genres exist. I'm speaking specifically about games because these are entertainment drivers. Sure,
So is
documentaries can be entertaining, but the function
okay. So yeah,
of
right.
the
So what you're
genre
saying
of
is fictional
documentary
media should
is
not be able to
different.
portray immoral acts. That's what you're telling me right now, right?
I have no idea what you just said. What was it?
Fictional media, as in movies and TV shows or video games, should not be able to portray immorality.
And we'd have to lose things like RoboCop in that case.
But by the
We
way, Soy
personally
Pill, I
would.
take,
I
I
would
take,
agree to that.
I take my take back. Joe's trumped everyone on the morality thing.
This is what morality
My
arguments look
bad,
like. Not
G.
about I think this game's better. It's I think that this is an immoral act and we should get rid of it. This is the puritanical.
No,
thing.
this is a fundamentally silly argument, because then you are actually talking about, for example, there's a really good old movie called Speak. That's one of
Yes.
like Kristen Stewart's old like first few appearances or whatever
Very
the
good
fuck
movie.
it is. Okay,
Very good movie.
what?
Stewart's
And
not
you
old,
do you
though.
think that it shouldn't exist because it centers around rape?
The thing that I am paying attention, and just to be clear, I don't hold this position. I just knew it would rile you motherfuckers up. So
Oh,
that's
what?
no
Fuck
notes. No
Man, you're
notes.
capping.
I was just
No.
pretending to be retarded, guys.
I'm telling you.
I'm just,
So you
I'm
came
just-
on
I'm just
here.
I
saying.
don't want to hear
No,
that.
actually,
So-
okay.
You
Joe,
came on
I'm actually
here.
mad now.
But-
Get
Joe,
him out
I'm
of
actually
here.
mad
Whatever.
now. Now I'm mad because I thought you were
Icebeans.
going to
You
take
guys
this.
got
I thought you were
upset when I said fucking
thought you were gonna
stupid
take
shit.
this into-
Yeah, okay.
I'm
$20.
sorry, I thought you were
No,
gonna
we're
take
gonna
this
interrupt
into-
this. Hold on.
Oh, man,
hold on. Hold on. Hold
Get him
on.
out of here.
We're gonna get $20.
Icebeans
But
knocks.
while I
Yeah.
process that, to say this from Alexander Rin, thank you for the $20. To say, if not games, then what or who? Also, why does gaming have to be limited to entertainment? All forms of storytelling has told stories to teach people. Joe is an idiot if this is his thought through belief, but apparently it's not his thought through belief.
Yeah, he's
He
So
was
let me.
trolling.
So
Okay,
let
wait,
me-
actually,
so-
go
so-
ahead,
I'm sorry,
Joe.
so you-
Save
so you brought-
yourself.
playing
So you
Save
brought this
yourself.
up.
Advocate.
You brought that.
Save
You brought this
yourself.
up, right? Right.
Save
So you
yourself. Go
brought
ahead.
this up because Speak is a
ahead.
fantastic example.
Yeah.
Deep ass cut. It's good for you. So the thing that I'm paying attention to when it comes to content, especially content around serious subjects. So a serious subject could be essay. A serious subject could be certain historical events. I think it's very important for whoever is making these mediums to understand their role within the genre and then how they can responsibly cover that particular genre, right? So for instance, take Speak, right? This was a book that I had to read in, I think it was middle school at that point. It was like a required middle school reading for me.
Same.
And
Yeah, I never
it's-
actually. To be fair, I didn't actually really watch the movie. I read the book.
Yeah,
So-
we did both.
Yeah.
'Cause they didn't care in the 2000s. We watched the book and watched the movie and just got signed a permission
Sure.
slip and been done with it. But
Sure.
but the thing that happens is, and this happens very often in musical environments, right? Like when you like certain aspects of musicals, right? There's a way that you need to hold the content to a level of respect and then responsibly presenting that to the public. And sometimes that can get very, very blurry. An example of this for
Yeah,
anybody that's in musicals, right? Like it's really dicey when I see schools do public presentations of certain musicals that have some dicey material. I can't think of a really solid example in my head, but there's different depictions of rapes in musicals, outright rapes in musicals, sexual violence, entire drug scenes, domestic violence. And then like one of the things that I always find so interesting is that when these things happen, audience members, which essentially are kids, are just laughing at it. And then like I see teachers get like, how dare you like laugh at this thing? And it's like we haven't built the culture or ethic to have children usually of like high school age to like broadly understand like what's happening with these things. And then my question is, like, as somebody who like isn't within that particular field, is like, what do we do with that type of content? Or like, if we know that there are particular intense moments, one that comes to example is Sweeney Todd, for instance. How can we convey that work in a way that is responsible relative to the audience as accepting that thing?
Okay.
And there's been different responses to that.
Okay.
That's
we do
the
need to
thing
get
that I'm
more
concerned
people
about.
in. We need to get.
I'm glad you wasted
different...
an hour lying about your position so you could say that point at the end. That was awesome, dude.
Okay.
You could've
Just
said that,
just
yeah,
FYI,
right there.
housekeeping. We are the well's running dry, gang. You aren't giving me enough money, and if we don't get here, I'll give the number. If we don't get $50 in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna cut the stream off. So if you want this to keep going, $50. That's how we do. I do want to get CPCA. I'll give you another chance. Go ahead. Have your point, please.
Oh my god, man. This Joe guy, such a windbag. Anyways,
So
I
we
wanted
talk
to
more than
say,
me.
essentially, okay, that at the end of the day, right, there is no, I guess you would say, clear direction for where culture in terms of media is going. We don't know where it will be in the future, okay? And so to make assertions and firm statements today are essentially pointless because nobody's applying real politique, okay, to sexual discussion. I think
True.
if we apply more realistic goals and more firm understandings, okay, that we will be headed towards, I guess, a better future. And that's what I wanted to say. Just a small piece, okay? Because
So you believe,
Yeah.
so CPCA, so you believe that substantive sexual education might help alleviate this problem that we're currently dealing with?
It depends.
Do you believe that there's substantive sexual education?
I mean,
Let's start there.
no education can prepare you for the real world, I guess.
Okay.
Well,
just
sure.
real quick. I want to keep this on subject, and if we go into education debate, it's not going to be on subject.
Well, it's not about education. It's just
okay.
I think it's reasonable to say that men have problems with their tits getting small in games is because we don't have comprehensive sex education and the external world. I think that's a reasonable assumption to make.
Okay,
Excuse me, I would
$5
like
from
my tits to get smaller,
$5
personally.
from Mori Memento to say I've learned today that unless you use stripping has something to do with the overall narrative of the debate, it is pointless. Thus, I cannot support it. Oh well, that's
So
okay.
sad, so
Thank
sad.
you for the $5.
But so true.
I wanna
So true.
I wanna give the mic to Star if she has any thoughts, because she's been fairly quiet for a bit, and I want to
Yeah.
make sure she gets a chance to get in here. And I want Xerxes to get in here too. Go ahead, Star.
I kind of feel like Joe and whatnot are kind of in support of censorship.
Yes. I'm
Well,
100% pro censorship.
I'm not for censorship in that way. We've already established guidelines in the industry for many of the industries, right? And it's kind of carte blanche, all about the same. And I do believe that things are being over sexualized, and especially getting to the kids, and that's where a lot of addiction and things come from, because obviously, between the porn, the gaming, and drugs and everything else, it's all dopamine hits, okay, which is very addictive and ruin people's lives. But for the most part, I mean, we're all adults, aren't we? And you have different genres, and you as an adult can choose and pick what it is that you want to watch or do. I don't need you censoring things for me. I had a mom and a dad once.
And your mom
that's not the government's job, is not to be my mom and my daddy.
Well, I think, okay,
No.
so, I like this a lot. I don't think your parents were any more or less capable than my parents. My parents were probably just as shitty as yours, and your parents shouldn't be the only metric of you determining what the world should be.
But that wasn't her point.
Like, no, but I'm saying that, like,
the government shouldn't restrict her
But you want
ability or
to
anyone's
make
the government should
my
app
mom and my dad, huh?
I mean, sure,
Yeah,
but
that's
like
your
the
point.
government
I
should
mean-
app. Yeah. No, I'm using that to lay out the point where if we understand that like mothers and fathers are completely incapable in most cases to properly acculturate and socialize a child, then who else is responsible for that? That's the question I'm asking you.
It
Me?
wouldn't be the government.
You directly.
I mean, it literally is right now.
Are teachers not the extension of the government?
I mean, they.
Me?
Not really.
Me or
They're-
him?
They're
No, they're
they're
actually-
government.
Schools with
Joe is
in public
asking
school,
you,
they are
Star.
government
legislated
employees.
by the state is absolutely an extension of the government. Yeah.
Yeah. So the government already
Yeah,
has a stake in your
sure, I
kids.
guess.
So like, I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, who else should have a stake in your children besides your parents?
I mean,
Well, the problem is
feds.
everyone, including
Nobody.
their friends, also has a stake in their children, right?
So
All
including the
different types
government
of
then, right?
videos, books, sure, the
Her answer
government.
was nobody.
But her
There we go.
her
My
point
answer's
was that
nobody.
you shouldn't be restricted from the media you want as an adult. That's her point. You have to argue.
That was my point.
Yeah.
So we
was
shouldn't
it.
be
But hold on. I look. I think there's a more interesting angle to go down here, and I'm just really curious, right? Because Star, you mentioned over-sexualization. You think that the society's become over-sexualized. Can you elaborate a
Sure.
little bit on what you mean by that?
Advertising, where music videos have went. It's went
Extremes.
from everything's in massive amounts of extremes,
Do
which
you-
is inundating people. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for the $100. Okay, Alexander Rin.
Oh, wow.
Just
Ooh.
keep going.
Yeah, hit your
I know
goals,
Soy
sir.
Pill's like, oh my god, pain, but it's okay.
Well, I
get
can
there.
leave whenever I want, right, Wake?
I
You're not-
mean-
I'm not
True, that's
beholden
true.
to you.
I'm not. You can leave at any time.
No,
don't
don't leave, Soy.
Yeah, but
Don't leave.
first of all, I'll get to that in a second. But before I
Pretty
forget my
soy of him to
question,
do.
right? So, Star, though, if you're complaining about
Sure.
over-sexualization, you do understand that you are contributing to it, correct?
Yeah.
How am I contributing?
Look at your melons.
Holy shit.
You're
Wait.
hot. That's how I
look,
guess.
look,
Yeah,
look,
you're
look,
hot.
look.
Why do you think you're
This is
on
why you
this
keep me
panel,
around,
though?
Wick,
You
okay?
think it's
You're
because
an
of your race?
attractive
Hold on,
lady.
no,
I
no,
need
everyone
to
shut
tease
up
this
and let her
out.
answer the question.
Here, Wick out
You
here.
understand, right,
Star,
that you are
I'm gonna
contributing
crash
to
out.
it with your outfit.
My regular old tank top that
Yeah.
I've had for like 4
I mean,
years.
I'm not complaining
look
about it.
at you.
I don't mind
At
it at
home.
all. I'm not saying I'm
Right.
not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying that
Right.
it does add a sexual element that would otherwise not be here.
Holy
Well,
fuck.
she can't
Yeah, but I'm
leave.
I
not
can
doing
save you,
sex-
Wick. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
let you
doing
dig this
weirdo-
hole.
I'm not
trying
doing
to
weirdo
include
sexual
that
acts. I'm not
Sure.
overt.
Hold on.
We're not asking
I
you.
Uh,
can't
Second.
breathe.
You're not overt, but like what he's trying and failing to say is that
Yeah, I see what
you
you're
have we get it.
I can't
that-
We're
breathe.
not
not
like-
versed with those things,
that would
He's
be
trying to
a
say you
pure-
have some nice
that's a pure
titties.
chemical
That's-
approach.
No, those are
Well,
implants.
Star,
Number one.
Star,
Okay.
you should be asking if they're under the impression that your chest is fake, because I know it's not.
They're not.
It is implants. Okay. I've been
No, it's
screaming.
not. It's
I've
not
never-
implants.
I've never
They're
said that they are fake
Oh,
or
okay.
anything
You
like
know
that.
he
Wait,
pays
wait,
you to do that.
wait.
Why are we
You're
asking you
paid.
this?
Wick.
Yeah, those
I've
are
never
fake.
had any plastic surgery.
Wick.
Not even a little.
Let me
That
try to
definitely comes
understand
down
what
to-
you are trying to say here.
I'm saying
goddamn.
what I mean.
I'm
I mean,
saying she
yeah,
can't help
I'm
it.
You're
I'm
being very
aware.
coy about it, Wick.
Are
What
you
you're trying to
trying-
say is the reason that Nova has been invited on this panel is not for her genius opinions or charming
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
It's because she has huge tits, and you saw that last night on Sarah's panel, and you
same
invited her
reason that you
onto
were
the
invited
Tiddy
on the
debate. That's
show.
what you're
Yeah,
trying to
okay,
say.
no.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
so
we're having
what?
this
Genius.
amazing conversation.
To be
Bro.
fair, right? Yeah.
You're thirsty. You're thirsty. Okay.
But
Yep,
hold on.
you're
Marketing.
thirsty and she's got the milk.
But it is.
Marketing.
It is. Look, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's immoral. I'm not saying it's even
God.
wrong. I enjoy it, right? But it's there. And
I
if
prefer
we
fun
want to talk
conversations,
about
honestly, Wick, but-
over-sexualization,
Yeah.
and we want to
agree,
say that
Soy.
that's a problem, then I think, like, obviously there are other outfits you could have chosen to wear that would be less revealing than what you have on.
Okay, Habibi, calm down.
Well, she
God
can
I-
damn.
I-
Just
I'm not-
saying.
I'm not-
Devil's
Wick, I
advocate.
gotta go. Can I say one last
You're
thing
the
before I go
devil's
away?
advocate.
Wick,
Oh, yeah.
Say one last
please.
thing. Hold on.
Wait,
Soy Pill's
wait,
got an outro. Soy Pill's got an outro. Go ahead.
I got to outro. Look,
Okay. Please.
I'm not. I don't want to legislate morality, guys. Okay, I just think that there are ways that games cannot be cringe. I don't like cringe. I want less cringe media. It is a zero-sum game. money has to be put into these things. Publishers only have so much money, and I don't like that they're using this weird, like, marketing tactic to make what I would consider worse quality games. That's all I really have to say about that. And just because, Star, you've been over-sexualized, I'm going to give you this opportunity to prove you're smart. What are the 4 components of GDP that non-farm?
No, I'm not doing that. Hold on a second. I want to address that. Hold on, I want to redress something.
Let her address
She's wearing a tank top, and she looks cute. All right? Or I'm wearing a tank top. I'm an H cup. It all fits me about the same way. That's
a fair argument. Now, what are the 4 components of GDP?
I'm not doing this with you. I'm not doing this.
All right.
Before you go,
you know what he said.
Soy, before you
know what he said.
Okay, before anyone else goes, I gotta read the $100 super chat. I really do gotta read this $100. Okay, so
at least let me say this to Soy while he's here, right?
Okay, say real quick.
I actually would like to have a conversation about this because here's the thing. I understand your argument, but I would like to actually expand on it. And I'll be honest with you, we really didn't get to do that. So by all means, but
see you later, man.
just to tell you, I think adios, Dan.
Yeah, wear a less revealing shirt next time, Soy. God.
Yeah,
I can see your shoulders or something.
That hat.
Right, I'll work
less
out
revealing. Get a different hat, too. It's sexual.
I'll see you later, buddy.
No, that pickle Rick in the back. We know what you're up to. We know what you're doing.
Bye, Soy. Check him out. Okay, let me read the $100 super chat because they paid me $100. It says, roast Joe and or mute him for 15 minutes for making me waste $20, only for him to realize how stupid his take was and decide to pretend it was just bait before you read it. Also, give your best arguments for and against violence in video games, no stripping. So, Joe, I am going to mute you because you did pay me $100.
Wait, was that end to me or was that part to you?
No, roast Joe and or mute him for 15 minutes for making him waste $20, only for him to realize how stupid his take was and decide to pretend it was just bait.
I'm sorry.
Also, give is that you or me?
And then me give my best arguments for and against violence in video games.
Got it. I see what you're saying. Sure.
All right, so we're gonna mute you. Timer starts now. Okay. Sorry, Joe. But $100. Okay. My best argument for violence in video games is it allows us to engage in play where it does no actual harm, but we get to pretend and experience things and maybe enjoy ourselves with violence in a way that won't actually hurt someone. So it allows us to get an urge out that does no actual harm. The argument against it is a similar one, is that while indulging in our urges, it lowers our ability to resist our urges.
I don't think it's an urge. See, I don't. The need of video games is in itself an urge. The point is to inflict harm. As much as, honestly, it's to either go through a competition or to overcome something difficult. And overcoming violence is just the ultimate difficulty. Like, survival is the ultimate difficulty, but we don't, use a sword because we just want to see blood. We want to overcome the dragon or the powerful force. And I think that's pretty consistent in most video games, even.
Though there's some video games that just excessively gratuitously violence, though.
No. You're. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
It'll be fast. I'm a quick talker.
Okay.
Please.
It's geared so that the player is the hero because everybody wants to be the hero.
Yeah.
That's what the marketing strategy is, and that's what everybody buys into. You're the hero, or you get powers, or some people like being the bad guy. I mean, what's the difference between that and an action movie? It's really no difference.
Except the immersion, right?
For me, except for you are controlling it.
But I would say that's the bonus. Okay. That's what makes video games great. You know?
Okay, so this, for me, look, not every video. I don't understand this personal. I don't understand this objection because there are some games where what you are and the powers and the skills and the tools that you have, they make sense. In the situation, in Deliverance Kingdom Come, you're like a fucking blacksmith's son or some shit. And when you go to fight the guy for the first time, you get pummeled into the ground because you're a fucking blacksmith's son trying to wield a sword. That makes sense in that moment. But that kind of game, having that kind of rationale, is, in my opinion, just as valid as any old slasher video game where there's so much blood and guts and it doesn't, that you're like, okay, this is kind of excessive. It appeals to somebody. It's been sold. if enough people like it, it becomes a classic hit. Who the hell am I to say this one is wrong because it has no rationale for like you using a sword, right? What I thought that Joe's argument was going to be when he was talking about the rape stuff was I thought he was actually cooking on a point where he was like, okay, what if you have a game wherein the rape is actually, you are put into the position of a raper and it is part of the video game that you rape somebody, like, and that is either seen as a neutral or a necessary thing. I thought that's where he was going to go with that. Maybe that would have actually been the thing for me to say, okay, all right, now we can maybe talk about putting on like some more moral breaks. Because now actually you're talking about taking it a step further. Like, we already kill people in video games, but we don't really have video games where you are the rapist, right? Like, so I don't, I guess that's, I don't, again, the wanton violence is kind of fine for me if it makes sense in the game that it's in, you know? It makes sense. I don't think that that's an issue.
Okay.
Like,
I don't know what you were yapping about, but
Y'all
as I was saying,
just love to cook people. Jeez.
I guess a woman was talking,
Yes,
so her
I'm
brain
being
shut off.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's okay. It's
see,
okay.
y'all
You
just
shut
can't
your
let a
brain up.
person
It's
talk.
all right, little Gup. It's
Really?
fine. It's totally fine. You couldn't follow the point. I was just responding to something
I have
Joe
to
said
leave
earlier.
in 5.
Okay, do you want to give? Hold on. Do you want to? No, that's fine. We've gone over time. Tell people where they can find you. All that. Give an outro, closing statement. Go ahead, Star, please. And thank you for coming. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Closing statement. I think if you don't like something or you want to see a change in something, then you have to obviously redirect where your money goes. That's just, it comes down to personal responsibility, and I don't want somebody picking what it is I do or what it is that I like for me. Thank you very much, government. Stay out of my personal business. Secondarily, you can find me at School of Thought, THOT. It's a play on words, and it's kind of like a variety thing. I do a little bit of news. I'm getting into medical stuff because I like to help people also. And that's about it. Enjoyed meeting all of you. You all seem to be very, very nice.
If you send me a link to your channel, I'll put it in the YouTube description. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll hope to have you back sometime. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Thanks, Wick.
Bye.
Okay.
I'm an extremely, extremely bitter man. I don't know why. I think I've become jaded from
You're
listening.
19 years old.
Yeah.
I'm
You've got a
Somalian.
while to be
Bro.
jaded, bud.
I'm Somalian, okay? My life
That
is
doesn't
hard.
change. That
Is
I
your
don't
name
know that
Johnny?
changes.
I'm just playing.
No? Well, Johnny, he isn't Somalian. He's Ethiopian, okay?
No, I know.
Like-
I know.
But
Oh, is he really now?
And I wouldn't put that on a whole group of people. That's his bad decisions that are making him what he is.
yeah,
And this
yeah.
is my bad decisions right here.
Okay,
mean-
$20 to unmute Joe. Okay, fair enough.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
Yeah,
Joe
cut
did
myself
nothing
up.
wrong. Free my boy
From-
Joe.
From the same
Free my
person,
boy Joe.
weirdly, that muted you.
Mhm.
Alexander
Awesome.
Rin says, agree with the girl on the top left. Sorry, I don't know names. That's Icebeans, by the way. Say you can unmute Joe now, and I did unmute Joe. So thank you for the $20. I do appreciate it. Hey, Joe, you're
I have a
free.
toxic
glad you-
question for Icebeans.
Oh.
Go ahead. Toxic question, eh?
Toxic. I just want to kind of see where you land because you said something. I want to interrogate it.
Go ahead.
Let's say there's a Call of Duty game, right? It's coming out.
Okay.
And they are depicting the 90s and 2000s. And the tutorial is in particular about vehicles and vehicle navigation. Should Call of Duty, in this case Epic Games, use the 9/11 terror attack as an example within the confines of a vehicle tutorial? Would you say that's okay to be in the game, and would you allow it, or any type of variation?
A vehicle tutorial, and you are in what? The plane?
It teaches you the basic navigations around vehicles, and the context of it is the beginning of the game. So the beginning of the game is trying to set
Okay.
that this Call of Duty game is in the
Okay,
context of Iraq, Afghanistan, and generally the war on terror. That's the overall
Where are
theme.
you though? My question is,
You're the
who
pilot.
are you? You're the
You're the
pilot.
You're the pilot. You start out with
You're the terrorist.
So you start out maybe as the I'll really load it for you. You'll start out as the passengers first, about navigating through basic navigation. You start out in the game in a plane. So you learn how to like pick up items, you learn how to interact with other like NPCs, you can even like interact with how like to crouch, stand, sit, all of that stuff. And then it goes through, you get the perspective of a terrorist. And now you are learning how to like navigate a weapon, draw weapons, change them, how to tie up hostages, how to kick down doors, and then finally you inevitably end up as the pilot.
Okay, and you're asking me if I have a like what
Would
do
you
you
have any issue?
specifically?
Would you have any issue with that in the context of a Call of Duty tutorial?
I mean, I think it's a pretty distasteful it's a pretty distasteful example. I think it would be one of those cases where I'd say it's not great, but I'm also not going to stop that developer from shooting themselves in the foot with it.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that'd be really great, actually.
What does that teach?
I think.
Well, it would depend on the story, right? Like, for example, what if we were to frame this story, right, where we put you in the eyes of the antagonist, right? We put you in the eyes of the villain, so you can see what they're thinking
Dijati,
and
for
how
the sub.
they're feeling, and what it would take to do such an act, right? Now, if you're affected by that emotionally, the same way you would be if you read a book or the same way you'd watch a movie, it's going to leave an impact on you that can actually be something positive, because now you think to yourself, I see the greatest of evils, right? I see how awful people can be. Now that I've been immersed in it and I've been behind their eyes, maybe there's a way I can be better or do something different after that. Again,
and a Call
the same way you could get from
no,
a
I mean,
book
I think
or a TV
I
show or
think
anything,
he's
right?
No, I mean, I think he's saying it like I mean, he is loading it a bit more in the sense that it is actually not loaded. It is using a very like a very traumatic event as a tutorial level, as opposed to like the the climax of the story.
Well,
right?
but that's what I'm saying.
Or it's something that's been built
on the
towards.
story. It's all based on the context, right? If this is
Yeah,
just like terrorist simulator, right, where you're just supposed to go in and just kill a bunch of people, and then you would say that, well, the intent is pretty awful. But if the intent is to put you in that environment and the story is used to reflect or used to tell the story of how someone becomes evil and how you can overcome it, then we have a different context. We have something that's even stronger than what a film could ever display. So it all depends, in my opinion.
Right, but I gave you explicitly what it's for. It's trying to paint the landscape that this game is happening during the event after this attack, and it's using the attack as a tutorial.
Exactly.
I mean,
I think a prologue. I mean, it doesn't. Doesn't matter if it's, go ahead.
I'm keep in mind, like I don't know how deep you know about games, Ice, but Call of Duty already did this, so and got into a lot of trouble.
Okay,
but
ultimately, okay. And again, I've never played COD, but like, would you say that is it your opinion that they shouldn't have done that?
Yes. Okay. I don't think in the particular context, you don't know it, but I'm just stating it as the affirmative. We're talking specifically about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The mission was called No Russian, and I don't believe that you needed to have that depiction as a prelude to understand the plot of the game. You could have easily depicted that this happened off screen, and you as a gamer don't have to participate in that to understand what you're trying to paint. That harkens to the point that I'm making in terms about like how you can how you can approach content sensitively.
I
can't. I don't know.
Right. And again, like I'm taking an example that happened and I'm amplifying it. This is not a 1-for-1 correlation. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying the No Russian mission is exactly the same as what I just described.
I mean, No Russian already happened in real life. Okay. It did. Just a few years ago.
I guess my issue and to kind of go back to what Xerxes was saying, I again can't speak for COD, but like I could 100% see where even a traumatic event or like something that could be seen as distasteful by people like me could actually be used to the benefit of the story. It is in the framing and how it's loaded and what the story actually is. Does it continue to build on to something greater, or is it just used as a side gag? You know,
Exactly.
but ultimately, those things I think are all. I mean, these are all very subjective things. What you might find distasteful, I might not, right?
Yeah, I can give you another example, right? I think it'd be a good idea if we had more heroines that were sexually assaulted and we got to see them overcome it. Why?
What
To
does-
give
in
women
a game?
heroes where it could be in a video game, it can be in books, movies. I think Speak is one of my favorite movies. Because it is showing us that reflection or that view from one side of things from our main protagonist, how deeply affected she is. And more than anything, it gives her an arc where she overcomes it. The guy tries to spoilers. The guy tries to do it again, and then she finally speaks. She finally yells. She screams, "Hey, help me!" Right? And I think that we can use these traumatic experiences in a controlled environment, that is, in a video game, to help give people models to overcome them later.
But Speak
I don't think you
Just
should
to
shy
follow,
away from it at
just to
all.
follow
So-
up, just to follow up on this point. I'm sorry, just to
Yeah.
follow up on this. Wait, just to follow up on this point. I like Speak is actually a pretty good example because it was credited for a lot of kids actually realizing, oh hey, this can happen. Like, or you know, so I think that like I think Joe, what you're maybe not maybe what like you're struggling to kind of rationale
no,
is like
the-
this
what-
idea of like you being sexually assaulted in a game.
But do we like, okay, I take some moderate offense to trying to like reduce the plot to Speak like that. Speak is an allegory about how in the face of sexual trauma that you're able to speak to those who are in your life that you care about. The book concludes with her mother she's
talking
learning
to her
about
mom.
this traumatic event. Not that
Yeah,
that we're
not reducing it. To be clear, the only reason we're reducing it is because we've been talking about outrageous
right, but that reduction,
things, okay?
but that reduction is when it comes to the stake of the book wrong. So like the art, like I can't jive
Well, I'm
with
talking
that.
I'm talking about the film. I saw the film, so yeah. I'm speaking of the movie, but regardless.
Okay, it's still the same thing, but sure.
But it isn't
the same ending
thing because-
exists in both of these examples.
What's
Thank you for putting me on, Wick.
You're being,
I mean,
here's the thing.
Look,
You're
I
being
listened to
overly
this.
pedantic
I
and not
listened to
addressing
this
the point.
argument about like a terrorist game to indoctrinate people to become terrorists. That is the silliest thing I've ever heard in the world. Just because I played Border Control Simulator doesn't mean I feel comfortable to now address the security concerns of an actual border control point. A terrorist game where you fly a plane into the tower is really dumb because you're supposed to keep the plane out of the tower. That's a proper tutorial for learning to fly, right? If you want to say, oh, you have a terrorist simulator to learn how to like tie people's hands up, what? Okay, you just press E? It's literally the COD like meme. Press F to pay respects. Press E to tie somebody up. I feel absolutely confident that I can now take over a plane.
Okay, Dispel, but you said all that, but I'm gonna need you to show me that parrot though.
I don't know how to do it on Discord. I thank you, Icebeans. I love the parrot.
Okay.
So why
I'll
did
bring up
you?
Roddy.
I'm confused about the response. Like, what was that responding to?
Actually,
You
I'm gonna
believing
dip
you
out.
be-
I probably shouldn't have been here as long as I was because I didn't know.
Xerxes.
Okay.
It's always a pleasure, and we'll see
I'll
Xerxes
see- I'll
Friday.
see you on
actually.
Friday.
Xerxes, hit me up at some point. We can chat up later.
Yeah. And Xerxes,
Sure.
hold on, just real quick. Xerxes going to be on our show Friday talking to Diane Yap, and that should be.
Oh
fun.
yeah, that'll be
Very
very
nice.
interesting. I have to tell you,
Diane,
that's quite the interesting confrontation.
She's
there, right?
she's
But
an
I do
interesting
have
character.
to.
yeah,
get
some
back.
call her.
Yeah, but,
I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys soon.
Never. Who
Have a good
calls
evening.
the child
See ya.
that? What the fuck?
I'm sure he can't wait to yap with Yap.
Yeah. No, I was responding to your analogy of a terrorist simulator game, and this is the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Gotcha.
There
Why
is a
did
very
I-
clear separation between fantasy and reality when you're playing a game. And if you are concerned that kids or even adults can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like that's delusional.
That wasn't the claim that I was making. I think that it is important to responsibly depict events. So I was challenging the
What do you mean
responsibility.
responsibly depict events? Like alt history is like super popular.
Icebeans articulated the point as to why she would be like okay with it, but where her reservations lied. It's a point that I agreed with her on because I didn't challenge it. I don't know what you're engaging with right now.
Oh no, I'm perfectly fine with the terrorist simulator. Because I
So
don't
you're-
think any
so
sane
let's
person is
parse it
actually
out.
going to like take that and go and do
Okay.
terrorism.
Okay,
If
so
you
you're
were planning on
so-
doing terrorism, you wouldn't play a game to like learn how to.
So you're totally fine with a video game depicting the October 7th attack from the perspective of Hamas and the entire mission up to and including the Nova Music Festival massacre? You're fine with that?
I'm pretty sure that has already been done, and I don't think that there's going to be
Pretty
a way
sure
for us to
from
meaningfully
who?
like clamp down on that.
Wait, you said pretty sure. So
Like you're
who
asking me
depict
if
that?
I'm okay with that? I can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
mean-
we can do anything about that.
We
Unless we
absolutely
actually
can.
just
You can bitch
bust down
and
the door.
moan about it, but like
Yeah, you
at
can
the
bitch
end
and
of
moan.
the day, yeah.
So
Like-
so the only response is to bitch and moan about it, even though we have like Congress and the
Yes,
government.
you are the
that
authoritarian
can
in this call.
intervene.
You are the authoritarian in this call. You believe we should kick down game makers' doors and arrest them.
No, I said very clearly that there's a responsible way to cover historical events, and depending on these context, you don't necessarily have to depict the event outright for people to understand what is happening. In the example
Sorry,
of the
sir.
call,
Your game falls outside the mandates of the state, outside of the truth of the state.
Okay.
You are now under arrest.
Before
Come with
we
me.
get too big into this,
The myth of
$10.
consent.
Let me read a
The
little
myth
super
of
chat.
consent
Okay,
is basically
just real quick. I need to make a little money, kings and queens.
Mhm.
Okay, $10 from Alexander Rin to say this: where does Joe want to draw the line? Should we ban Roots? Should we ban any film that depicted slavery, poverty? What?
why do people always bring up these dumbass questions with a black person in the room? Like, there's a way to responsibly cover events and responsibly depict events in games, in films, and movies. And there's a bunch of really good examples of how certain things are handled responsibly. And there's a myriad of examples that are not covered responsibly. And then it's our duty as consumers to go, hey, maybe we don't need since we're talking about black people, I guess, we don't need the nth depiction of a slave master whipping a black person to understand the confines of what slavery looked like. We don't need to have
We do have
white
that
people
depiction, bud.
overtly just saying the N-word when any single linguistic will tell you, like, people weren't just openly, just like
Amistad.
aggressively, like rolling, like rounding up and charging up and saying the N-word. A lot of the racism that black people face in America was very passive, very internalized. And you can depict that in films. You can depict how these certain things, whether it be violence,
Not in
whether
games.
it be microaggressions, all these type of stuffs can manifest itself within the external world. You can use certain levels of media to do that. Why are we trying to act like I'm holding some more extreme position where I'm trying to be authoritarian? I'm not
No, because
authoritarian.
because
We're
you
gonna let
said
it
no,
go.
because Joe, you
Oh,
said
right, they're
you,
still stuck
you
in the thing
literally-
before, right?
No, you
Yeah.
said all that, but then like the examples that you're using is like a very like specific hypothetical of like a
Well,
very
Right, because
But I mean, if your point is that we can do like more with nuance, then you should be bringing the examples of nuance.
right,
Like,
which
I
is
don't-
my position, right? Like if I were to say the ought in the 9/11 example, you don't have to depict 9/11 for people to understand what 9/11 is. You don't have to depict what October 7th is for people to understand what October 7th is. You have other different vehicles of media that if they're doing their jobs, and other vehicles of media could be within education, could be within history. Like if these things are being done responsibly, then you don't need to explain through somebody in a video game what this looked like
Okay.
and what it really
Well,
felt
what
like.
about
Okay,
what about
all
Grand
right.
Theft
Does that
Auto
make
San
sense?
Andreas? What about
Yes.
San
Okay.
Andreas?
So literally no
Gang
sensitive
violence.
content in
Also-
video games, but
also,
everything
I
else,
have to
every
go,
other form
guys.
of media is
Okay,
fine.
Being
let's hold on.
Icebeans.
Let's
I'm
give
sorry.
Ice. Let's give
Sorry.
Ice an outro. Proper
Yeah.
outro for Ice.
Sorry, guys.
Ice. Tell people
Okay.
where they can find you, all that. And
y-
to be clear,
Yep.
you have also sexualized the space. I didn't want to leave you out. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Oh yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
Got you. Please go.
Okay. I am ice_beans on Twitch. Icebeans76 on YouTube. Please go follow me. I'm trying to work towards monetization. I do variety stuff, and then sometimes I come on here to yell at Wick. Fun times. I think overall, to go back to, I haven't really been kind of talked out of my original position, which is basically that, I think we should let people do whatever it is that they want. If they like Gooner games, go ahead and do the Gooner games. If you like making Gooner games, go ahead and make those Gooner games, Try to make that bag, that's fine. I myself like very specific video games. I don't like many of the other kind of Gooner games, and I realize that's not popular, but that's fine. I think there's a market for that kind of stuff, and I think if you have an issue with titties, I don't know, go fuck yourself, I guess. Just let the market figure it out. That's my position. All right. Good talking to all of y'all. I will catch y'all later.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Check
for sure.
her out. I
Take
got a
care
link
now.
to her YouTube in my YouTube description, so click on that link. I want to give the mic now that we have that break.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the mic to Powdered Dusty. Is that how you say your name, buddy?
Yes.
Okay. And can you turn yourself up? You're a little low. And Mike's yours. What are your thoughts? And we are winding down soon, gang. Right? We're winding down soon because you stopped giving me money. So.
Didn't you get one last one? I thought you got a new one.
$100.
No, $10
It was
the
like
last
$10.
one I got. But
Okay.
again, I want to prime the pump and have them keep giving me money, so I don't do this shit for free. Okay?
Don't
But
say it
anyway.
out loud. Don't talk about what's.
Powder, go ahead.
Yeah, don't talk about the
Powder.
Gooner pumps on stream.
Powder, please.
So I think it sounds like what Joe is ignoring is that there's a lot of different perspectives on history or on any event. There's different
Of course.
perspectives on it. And so just a minute ago, you were saying that there's a responsible way to cover the historical event, implying that there was one narrative and that is the correct narrative.
No, I don't think that's necessarily connected. I think
no.
you can responsibly portray historical events and also absolutely concede that there are multiple perspectives. But the facts generally support a specific, conclusion, and then it's the author's interpretation from there, right?
Sure. And then there's even certain interpretations that we won't even know happened. We don't know the actual history of those who died on 9/11. We don't know the individual stories of every single person that died. We don't know what their final days are. I would find it incredibly irresponsible if a game tried to depict what the people in the towers were experiencing. That would be deeply irresponsible and disrespectful to the victims.
Irresponsible?
Sure it would.
No, I feel like you could definitely make a game where
it would be
you need to
disrespectful,
jump out of a
but
window.
That's
before
part of
the
the
plane
beauty of
hits.
being in this country is you can respect people.
Wait,
I mean, what
hold
if
on.
that
There's
that
two
would
competing
sell
ideas.
like hotcakes?
It would sell like, what do you talk? What?
It would sell
Wait, do you want
like
this? I don't
hotcakes.
understand what he's saying. So you're
Yeah,
saying
he's saying
that
that game would sell a lot of copies, and I'm
a
saying
game that depicts the victims of the 9/11 terror
I'm going to be so
attack
honest. It's probably
would
already on
make
Roblox.
hotcakes.
Let's be completely honest. There's fucking car crash lobbies in Roblox. There's definitely jumping out of the 9/11 towers on Roblox.
Can I confess something to you, Wick?
I suppose.
I don't know what Roblox is. Can you explain it to me?
It's a
kid's
children's
game.
game.
it's a boring,
Okay.
it's a weird, boring game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a children's game where the children can like design and make their own like lobbies and like games, and then they get like in-game currency
It's Sims.
if
You
people
build
play
your own
it.
Sim world.
Yeah,
And
Pretty much.
good point.
okay,
Sims, Legos. It's like Lego Sims.
okay. So, all right,
Okay.
I'm acquainted.
Oh,
All right, now
Since
don't
there's a
forget-
lot of different ways to
Bro, I got you. I'll
observe
send you.
something, and since there is no, don't you think that there's a bigger harm or risk in having one authoritative perspective? Because you might say that I'm Joe Lewis. I like it this way now, but then tomorrow I'm in charge, and guess what? I got an entirely opposite view on it, and now the mechanisms are in place to squash what you had previously thought was the right view.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean by authoritative perspective when it comes to history. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, to say a Bureau of Information or Bureau of Video Game Oversights or whatever, any institution that would be in charge of regulating this sort of media.
Okay. Do you think that because I think like a narrative is just a collection of facts presented in a particular manner. I don't know if you agree with that like idea of like what I'm observing. But when I look at something like the 9/11 terror attacks, there's a narrative that it was a terrorist attack. It's not to say that it wasn't, but it's saying that there is a prevailing narrative that the only way you can observe this event is that it is a terrorist attack. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then
let's do something. Let's do something a little bit more nuanced. Let's use Ukraine. Who's the aggressor here? It depends on how far back in the timeline you want to go. Right?
I mean, who crossed the border first? Who crossed into Ukraine?
Who stationed troops on a border country, which was against the NATO?
I don't know. I mean,
but the point isn't who is the first aggressor. The point is that
I mean, who violated national sovereignty?
Oh Lord, here we go.
Yeah, we're not gonna do a Ukraine debate here. But there is a genuine narrative to be had.
The problem is 9/11 is an event that is established and a historical artifact. What we're seeing
when we talk about 9/11, we are recreating it from our current physiological connections that are happening in our brain. We are recontextualizing 9/11 into this current voice call. None of us are pulling up pictures of 9/11 or videos of 9/11 or people jumping out of 9/11. We are illustrating it with our minds, with our brains. We are not accessing a pure, true.
You know what I want to illustrate with my minds and my brains? Titties, and we have gone far away from titties. That I think
I'd like to imagine if like your titties were too fat to jump out of the tower windows.
What is
Jesus Christ? I'd like to finish this thought. Like
finish the thought, but then we gotta go to closing.
The point I'm trying to make here is that the conflict in Ukraine with Russia is a currently occurring event. It's not fixed yet. It's not fixed in terms of and the conflict is not fixed even in this idea of resolution. When it comes to 9/11, broadly speaking, as far as an event, it's settled. Ukraine is not. So I don't like there's going to be different prevailing narratives that exist within that.
We're Americans.
What's that?
If we're Americans, if we were Iraqis, it probably wouldn't be settled the same way.
What do you mean? It's a settled event.
No, I think Americans are completely capable of taking the perspective of Iraqis and understanding why Iraqis would have done it. But like to bring this to titties, I mean, the really important thing is big, huge, slapping, oiled up titties.
You don't need to anymore because I'm just going to close it out.
We're
Brothers,
done? Okay.
sisters, everyone else.
Wick.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I did my best. I'm sorry, Wick.
Here. Thank you for coming. I have, today was a hybrid panel, half open, half not, simply because of the vagaries of guests and cancellations and all that. But I do appreciate all of you who jumped in and all of you who came on to talk to us. I appreciate
You're doing the Lord's work, Wick.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing the Lord's work.
I'm doing someone's work. But anyway, thank you for the $5. Zephyr Ash to say, is this where the titty bait is happening? Did I come to the right place? Kind of. We went all over the place. At the end of the day, I'll say this. If you like my kind of content, if you enjoy what we did tonight, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're following me on YouTube. If you're watching this on Twitch or on Kick, hit that follow button. Tomorrow I might have a show, but it's in flux. Thursday though, we are definitely having a show. We're having Loaderbox. We're having hold on. We're having Loaderbox. We're having Tollybots. We're having Prime Kais, and we're having Doobie. And we're going to be debating Israel and Palestine. So tune in for that. Should be fun. 6 p.m. Thursday. And I'll see you guys later.
I just like the stream, chat. Make sure you like the stream.
Bye-bye. Wait, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Let me shell